Good afternoon. Welcome to our session this afternoon. Our session is about decentralized society, and we'll talk about SBTs, DAO, and SocialFi. I'm your moderator. My name is Wei Min. I'm a startup advocate from AWS. Thank you for joining us. For someone from Web2, a Web2 company, it's like a time travel into the world of Web3 all of a sudden. When I was asked to host the event, I had no idea what to expect. So then I was told, don't worry, it's like one of the Oscar ceremony. You get to meet all the famous people from all over the world who think they can do anything from anywhere all at once. And the best part is you get to go to the after party if you did a great job. So please do me a favor. If you liked our session this afternoon, hit the like button on social media so I can go to the after party. Or better yet, take me to your outrageously gorgeous party if you're one of the rich studio owners. Don't worry, I'm a very low maintenance, so thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Okay. The legendary Greek philosopher Aristotle said over 2,300 years ago that man is by nature a social animal. Society is something that precedes the individual, and man cannot live alone. Technologies have made many important changes throughout history and constantly reshape the way we live and interact. Nowadays, we chat, shop, find our dates on social applications. They are so popular that we use it too much, and it's become a financial problem in this bad economy. Just a couple of weeks ago, a very well-paid US congressman was so worried about his cell phone's data plan overcharge. So he asked repeatedly TikTok's CEO at a Congress hearing that, does it connect to my home Wi-Fi? Wow, speak of money saving. Our distinguished guests today have built some of the most exciting and popular decentralized social applications and protocols of our times. Why did they make them? What are the tears and laughs behind the scenes? What are the visions? Where are they taking us? And how are we going to get there? Let's sit tight and find out. Without further ado, the first Oscar goes to the Mask Network, whose generous co-organizing and support has made our event possible today. Mask Network is considered by many the Tencent of Web3 era. And why is that? Because they have decentralized everything, from social messaging to file storage and sharing, to borderless payment network, and DAO and NFTs. And then they integrated them into one easy-to-use, safe and convenient portal for Web2 users like me to jump right into the world of Web3. So let's welcome the CTO of Mask Network, Yisi Liu, to share his vision on breaking the mold, innovations in social media infrastructures. Please welcome Yisi.
Okay, thanks for the introduction. And my name is Yisi, and I'm the co-founder and CTO at Mask Network. And I just want to briefly welcome all of you guys to come to our substage. We have a whole afternoon event talking about a decentralized society and social and then actual. So my today's topic is kind of something new. I've never talked about this before. For someone who knows me well, I talk a lot about identities. But today, after we have been working on this social for 4 years, well, a little bit more than 4 to 5 years, I want to just talk about some innovations here. What we are doing, what the other people are doing, and then what's my takeaway. Oh, sorry. The title is Breaking the Mold, Innovations in Social Media Infrastructures. But I guess I'm more focusing on, firstly, I'm gonna talk about more about the history inside of the innovations, and then we'll see why. Let's talk about social media first. This is a Plato. I guess you guys don't really know what Plato is. It's programmed something a system for universally use. It was developed by University of Illinois. I was studying CS in my undergrad work, but that's not the reason why I'm bringing this up. The only reason I'm bringing this up is they actually built the world's first online community back to 1970. I think this is something really interesting because think about the life in 1970, even 20 or 30 years ago. The infrastructures are just so the infrastructures are so premature. We don't really have this fantastic network. We don't have a fast internet connection. We don't even have a phone. All we had is a gigantic computer that can be as large as a entire room, something like this. But in 1970, this University of Illinois just developed this system and provide this system to all of the university students and the staff and everybody who's in this campus. Their idea is people can just use this system to talk to each other and to assist their coursework. Let's take a look what they have. They have Plato Notes in 1972, which is it's an online forum and a message board. You can consider that as the first VBS in the world. And then we have Talkmatic, in 1973, which is chat rooms, term talk, instant messaging, personal notes, as we see here is the premature email, and some multiplayer games like Avatar here on the lower right. Avatar was the first multiplayer game back in 1979. And the reason why we're talking about this is we always as the MC just said, people are just social animals. We have these demands or these needs for social, not just because we have these infrastructures. These infrastructures are serving the people. They're not our goal. So let's talk about something is more modern than this one. I just list a brief history of all the important infrastructure. I think that's vital to the modern social media. In 1971, we have email, then BBS in 1978, and Usenet, IRC. I'm not sure if you guys have used any IRC, but if you're sitting in a room 20 years ago, with your friends, or in a computer lab, all you have is IRC that you can just communicate with your friends directly in this local network. We have World Wide Web in 1991, and Yahoo GeoCities, which was invented in 1994, which is everybody. Their vision is super interesting because back to 30 years ago, Yahoo actually thought everybody should have some online place for storing their profile, for storing their data. But that was 30 years ago, where when nobody has their own personal computer. And 1995 we have eBay, and then AOL, American Online, instant messaging app. Okay. In 1997, 6degrees.com just got invented, which is considered the first ever social media. And we have Google, PayPal, Napster, Wikipedia, Friendster, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter in the next 10 years. But back to 1997, think about it. I mean, let's think about history. Many of you guys may have, was born in the 1990s. And back then, over 3 million people signed up for the 6degrees.com in their first few months. They sign up not just because they find some really interesting, they feel like they want to social, only because the infrastructures enable them to do so. Later on, Friendster got millions of, tens of millions of users right before Facebook and LinkedIn, Twitter were invented. What are those social media for? By the way, just a disclaimer: all my the images I use in my slides are generated by Midjourney. There's no copyright. Why do you do social? Why do you need social actually? You can use social media or in general social for communicating with your friends, or sharing information, or just doing general networking, or playing games multiplayer games, and or do some self-expression or identity construction, or you just want to promote your business in a larger group of people, or you just want some emotional support. All of these, think about think about it. They're not just generated, or these needs are not generated only because there is a computer, because of there's a internet. Those are natural demands, natural needs for everybody. Our infrastructures are serving them. And today I'm going to talk about innovations, but more I just want to take all the way back to why we need this. And because we don't really want to build some useless infrastructures. What we want is to build something that people really need. And we also talk about Facebook and then Twitter. So one of the reasons why we founded the Mask network, or Mask in general, was because back to 2018 we have this really famous Cambridge Analytica scandal, where everybody knows Facebook and this Cambridge Analytica company use or abuse our data to manipulate the U.S. U.S. presidential election, Brexit general election. Wow, this is okay. I heard some echo, but yeah. Anyways, the reason why we do this, we build this Mask, is we want to have some a tool for users to really own their data, to really control their data, so that they're not gonna be affected or controlled or abused by those large companies. But what are the problems here? Let's those are our general needs, but these are the actual problems that's actually really building up in this existing social media world. Well, we have privacy issues. Everybody knows that. That's why we built Mask now. Sorry, and we have content moderation. You can your tweet or your content can be easily deleted, or even your account can be easily deleted by these companies, only because you are violating their some privacy issues or privacy policies or anything. And there are shallow connections. If you connect with somebody on Twitter or on Facebook, well, Facebook is another thing, but on Twitter, maybe your connection with the other guy is you just follow each other, or just like someone's post. But those are shallow connections, because if you leave this company, or if you leave this platform, you will never see this man again, probably. And we have monetizations in the ads that are actually the huge problem you see on the existing social medias, because your data, or I think there's a very famous quote saying you're not the customer, you're the product itself, because you are serving these platforms, you're serving these companies to make money for them. And we have like disinformation and fake news, and a lot of like impersonation are happening on like those social media. The cost for like impersonation is really, really low. And then we have the algorithm bias and the echo chambers. You just like easily got sunk into those like echo chambers that you can never escape. So these are the problems actually we want to solve, or we try to solve. But if we really want to like conclude all those like problems, we can just conclude them in 3 different dimensions, which are identity, data, and trust. And then identity, we'll just get back later. Identity is like a really huge problem, not because like identity itself, but not just because of these like platforms, because like the entire system is like corrupted or broken. Because think about like when you're signing up, there's a quotation mark there, signing up for some like systems, you're actually filling out a form. Putting your like a username, password, and then some like private data or private information, and then you just send this form to the company, and the company will like allow you to create an account in their database, and then just like a data entry in their database. You're not controlling, you're not the owner of the account. You're just like you are allowed to like use this account. They're not like true ownership, but how to solve these problems? We'll get back to these problems later. How to solve these problems? Because like we have a lot of like words or even like a buzzword, like decentralization. Everybody talks about decentralization, but can decentralization or total decentralization solve this problem? I highly doubt it. Because like, so decentralization is always a word. It means not a goal. We're not like working towards decentralization. We're working towards a better world or better like infrastructure. So decentralization could be a solution, but it's a part of the solution. Will like permissionlessness solve this problem? It will, but still like it's not our goal. We really need to like talk about our goal before we talk about what kind of like technologies we're gonna use. Will blockchain solve this problem? For sure it's going to be helpful, but again, they're not the goals we're talking about here. These are all means. These are all like the ways towards a better like social media sites or towards a better world. But we really need to like define the goal or define the problem we are actually solving. So like as I said, decentralization means not a goal. Total decentralization may not be optimal. Think about like a lot of like a truly decentralized platform or truly decentralized like application. The user experience it sucks. I gotta say this, it sucks. So we really need to like balance this like kind of a trade-off here before we work on some like stuff. And think about the goal instead of like just working towards decentralization. Also like permissionless or like a blockchain or all these words. Think about like our goal before we are actually using these technologies. What's our goal? Ownership of identities, ownership of data, and then ownership of privacy. These are dependent on each other. So the reason why we like work so much on like identity in Mask is because we really want to like define the identity before working on those like privacy issues or data ownership issues. Because if we cannot just change the entire account system, we can never achieve the goal we want. I'm gonna talk about some new opportunities, but along with these like problems. As we said, like identity. Username, password-based identity system is like truly centralized. As I said, you're gonna sign up for these like accounts. You're not the true owner of that. So you're gonna like request to create this like account, but the companies can easily delete your entry in the database without your permission. So there's no ownership, and for each like platform, you will have like one account. As we said, like this is kind of a shallow connection because you're on Twitter, but you cannot just migrate or bring your like social capital to another platform easily. But later on, like in 2005, OpenID was invented. So we have this like single sign-on strategy so that you can use one account to log into many different platforms like Google login or Facebook login or like Twitter login, GitHub login. But these are not actually solving the problem because for sure you're just bringing your like same account across different platforms, but still like your privacy, your data is stored in one centralized place. And these are, they're not like trying to, just trying to, if I'm Google, I'm just so happy that you are using my account system to log in so many different platforms because we can have like, more data so that we can just make more money on you. Well, and then also trust is still like super like dependent on those like third parties. You cannot just build your trust because like your trust depends on Facebook or it depends on Twitter or Google. If they have any like trust issues, your trust is not reliable anymore. So what we want is decentralized identity, and this is kind of like the opportunities we think or we think the most important before doing all these like new stuff. That's why we have this like we have been working on this like since day one at Mask. It's like it's a permissionless. You don't really have to sign up or request. You just have your just generate a random seed and generate a random number as your private key. And you can just do self-verification and authentication, and you just prove you are you without any third parties. Data ownership is like enforced by encryption and decryption, and that's what we do in Mask. And the copyright is enforced by signatures. You just need to sign and then verify. Well, to show the people, to show the world, this content is yours, generated only by you. And then trust is built up in a transparent way. And so a lot of people will just ask, is a blockchain wallet a DID? We'll say yes, but using your like wallet account or wallet as your DID or as your ID is super risky. Because in our opinion, different identities should be isolated. Because like you don't really want to bring your identification card everywhere to show to pay for your to pay for a taxi or to pay for your food because super it's really risky. And then vice versa, you don't really want to bring your bank like a debit card or credit card to prove that you're you. If you're got pulled over by a policeman, you don't really want to show them your bank account or a bank debit card. You're gonna need your ID, and these you can save your financial assets in your bank account or in your wallet, but you should also have your social capital saved somewhere. And this is something only DID can bring here. And another issue with existing DID solutions are always around identity management. Because it's super hard for users to use different to store their private keys or even those seeds seed phrases. But these are the obstacles we need to solve. I'm not gonna propose anything new or anything that we are working on. Because all we want is to bring more the problems we're gonna solve, and then a lot of people are already working on this MPC wallets. There are a lot of them, and now account abstraction and so on. Data. Well, I don't think I'm a little bit over time, but I'm trying to make it. So data is always we are already talk about identity, then data, because data is always attached to an identity. Each DID generates its own data attached to it. Well, say, if you generate some data or content on Twitter or Facebook, they're now yours. But after you have DID or have a truly permissionless or truly a ID truly belongs to you, you can just generate data and that's attached to this identity, and then you can use it everywhere. You can just prove you're the owner of this kind of content by just by signing some account or by the signature, showing people the signatures you have. And data is portable, and each interactions can be traced or not, or all up to you guys. And these are the things we think is super important in the future. And then the new social media I'm not saying what the new social media will look like, but these are the essential content I want to bring up. Identities are owned by the users. Data ownership is super clear because like you can prove the authenticity of the data, any like data piece, and interactions can be traced in a transparent way. There are a lot of like, I think we have like Lens protocol and other like projects presenting later today. Those are the really good like example for all these like bullet points. And user-centric social media becomes possible, and a new business model can also emerge. Not just like the traditional advertisement business model that's actually abusing everybody's data. We want to build a social media for everybody. We're not just serving those like companies, serving any third parties. We just want to serve people, and that's why we're building Mass Network. And just like these are our Mass.io and XID, Firefly.land, and those are our like projects. And below is my personal contact. And thanks so much again for coming. I'm so sorry I got like 1 minute over time. So let's welcome the rest of the speakers. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Isu. Wow, it's starting to get loud, and that's nice. That's the Web3 I know. The Web3 people, you Web3 people are the best, and the loudest, and the vibrant, and I feel so much alive among you guys. So go Web3. Our next guest, Jessica Chan, had a very successful career as a commodity and crypto derivatives trader and a blockchain researcher. Then she founded Relation Labs and went on a mission that, in her own words, you own your data, I graph your social relations. They've built a multi-chain Web3 social graph application and a tool suite that includes Access APIs, dashboard APIs, graph APIs, modular social functions, and a smart contract-based multi-chain wallet solution. Let's hear Jessica Chan, the founder of Relation Labs, her vision on revolutionizing social graph with semantic SBTs. Please welcome Jessica.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Jessica Zhang. I'm the founder of Relation Labs. Today I'm going to talk about something about building of the decentralized society, and that definitely includes something like decentralization, privacy, and the control, ownership of the data and identity. But this is all included in our design goals of the decentralized society, but how to build that? So I'm going to talk about something which is futuristic, about the building of the decentralized society and revolutionizing the social graph with the idea, which is the building foundation of the social graph. We call it the semantic soulbound tokens. So I want to explain the semantic soulbound token first. So many of you may already know that the soulbound token is something that is non-transferable, which is an NFT, and trying to capture the social connections, the approves, attestations, attendance, etc., that people are having in their Web3 world and past experiences. So what is a semantic soulbound token? This is the concept that raised by Relation Labs by us and specified by the EIP number 6239. And that is a type of soulbound token that leverage the graph data model, which is called RDF, to encode the social relationships in Web3. So there are many useful ways to having the RDF in this social decentralized society by representing and changing of the data on chain and making a query and processing of the token data. Let me further explain what is RDF, which is short for the Resource Description Framework. And it is a Web3C standard that trying to describe the graph-based data model represent the relationship in the SPO triples. So here I give the example of the SPO triples. The S stands for subject, P stands for predicate, and O stands for object. So here's the example. Alice is the ambassador of the example doll. So it is quite simple to understand what is a semantic software token. That is NFT, which is non-transferable and trying to capture the semantic meaning that a software token is trying to describe in the SPO triple. Sorry, get back. So we believe that building the decentralized society is something that's all about modeling of the decentralized society. It's a modeling of the data, modeling of the interoperability, and a modeling of the identity. So by introducing the semantic software tokens and RDF into this blockchain identity ecosystem, we can enable many things that fall into below 3 categories. So we are going to describe each aspect one by one. The first is it enables the interoperability within many blockchain applications. So we just take this picture as an example. You can consider this part. I'm not going to point at this. This will be part of the blockchain data, and we organize that by standardizing the data format and ontology and making that the standard part of this layer. And based on this standard, we can write many smart contracts that is having more logics than before, and we can make the interoperability of the token and the smart contracts. And based on this, we can develop many applications that can easily understand each other's data and interpret the data. So it makes it easy for both the users and builders. For the users, they will carry all their data with them. So the token will be the carrier of each piece of the data, and the token will be in their wallet. And for the applications, they don't need to bother to reinvent the wheel, just start building with this standard data format. Okay, so that definitely creates a better ecosystem because that's an improved user experience for people to operate the different applications, which is cohesive and streamlined experiences. And for builders, it improves the efficiency. And also it increases the accessibility of the different applications. So we don't need to switch back and forth from the different applications. It's all here carried by you. And the application will be just like a front-end display of the data that you have. Okay. It now comes to the second part of what's the benefit of the blockchain identity ecosystem. It is definitely the social identity with the social assets. So the social identity here in this blockchain ecosystem is something that wallet with the digital persona and a sense of belongings in each of the communities, the DAOs and platforms or social networks. And the social attestations that accumulated in the interaction in the applications will all call that the social assets. So what is the social identity with social assets in the DeSoc? We define that is the address you have with or without a name, better with a name, and a collection of software tokens. So each of the software tokens will be carrying a piece of data that you have, and that is independent. You can display that or cover that to protect your privacy. So the modeling of the social identity will now become the modeling of the attestations. And the semantic soulbound tokens will be the carrier of the information. And we encode information by represent and verify the attestation in RDF, and modify and revoke attestation in RDF. So we don't bother to revoke the tokens, right? We just revoke the data. And we create applications that are more inclusive and can capture the broader range of the human experiences in the Web3 decentralized society. So now we can build something that we don't have before, which is the DAO structure that carries the permissions. For example, we can have the holding-based social networking, and we can have the DAO structure that each of the role will be carrying the different permissions, like log into each platform and having the different permissions in voting and organizing of the resources. And what we have another one is the community recovery, which is powered by the semantic soulbound tokens, that you can assign some of the close contacts for you, or even the community, the representatives of the community, to help you to make this community recovery. And it improves the efficiency in the DAO structure and community, that you can have some predefined rules that are processed by the smart contract that is transparent and trustless. So one more thing which is important is that the problem raised by the DeSoc author is that they're trying to make a way that to enable the computation over the graph of attestations. And the RDF will be helping that, because we can assign widths to the predicates and making it either qualitative and quantitative. So we can be having the graph technologists to detecting the modularity, the communities to discover some new communities, and making a better decision. For example, whether we will be processing the proposal or not, whether the vote is good enough, and with enable more efficient resource allocations based on the verifiable data. So for example, we have many of the blockchain projects will have their own governance, and how we are going to distribute the funds for example, the grants. So the making of the resource allocation, we are more efficient, fair, and transparent by having the RDS and discover of the communities. So, and also by the algorithm, we can discover the decentralization and diversity. So each piece of the RDF enter into the whole social graph will definitely be identified by the data set and be represented in some way that is discovering the diversity. So this helps in building a more transparent and fair reputation system by the algorithms. And next point, which is very promising, is the RDF is machine readable and AI system readable. So what we can do is we can put in all this data in the standard format, SPO, and let the AI system to process that, to discover some new insights, to discover the trend that cannot be identified by us, or even discover some risks that is not easy to discover. And some standard functionalities like making the recommendations and discover the intelligence, wisdom. For example, we can actually put in all those SPO triples to the AI and let them describe what the identity is like, the persona. and what the person's interest is, so we can make the recommendations to this person and make the advertisement, etc. So that enables the smarter description and finding and managing of the risks in this decentralized society. And also we can make the web more personalized, that everything is depend on your own persona and the community that you are in. So definitely the recommendation will be, the recommendation and the decision making will be personalized. Okay, one more thing which is very important and we cannot ignore is we cannot put everything about people's identity on-chain. So the way we solve that is we enable the privacy module of the Soulbound token that not trying to solve the privacy problem generically, but work on each application case by case intentionally. So the way we're doing that is we just leave this privacy configuration setting to the builder or individual themselves, so they can decide that who can view their data and the length of viewing and everything that they can set it on based on the on-chain conditions. It can be the NFT that you're holding and or even the token you're holding and for example the semantic Soulbound tokens you're holding. So for example, if I'm putting something personal on chain and encrypted on our web and I want to just a few people, I make a web list, they can view data. This is one case. Another one is I'm a journalist. I put my content on our web, encrypted, and issue a number of NFTs that can be traded. And everyone who bought the NFT can actually go to my web page to view my content. So there are many more use cases. Depends on your own social context. You can make your own control and configuration for so we call it a socially programmable privacy. Okay, so by building with the semantic Soulbound tokens, we can actually build a semantic layer. Why we call it semantic layer? It is because the token is not the most important things in the social graph. It's just a carrier. What is important is the RDF. So what we do is we listen to all the new RDFs and update of RDFs and make it, grab it into a whole large data set and make it a linked data layer, which is capture the semantic meaning in this decentralized society. And this is a conceptual layer sits between the data source and the end user. So it provides a common knowledge which can be used as a public goods in this blockchain ecosystem, that we can organize the whole ecosystem data in a meaningful way. So we're actually taking the blockchain as a data store, and what we're hosting the data on the blockchain is the social metadata, which is very short in RDF, and the attestations and access permissions, which is very important and can make use with the on-chain for the better interoperability. Okay, here we describe the whole landscape of this decentralized social graph. This will be the base layer, which is Ethereum for many, and the EIP here. And all those semantic tokens constructed through these EIPs will be forming the semantic layer, and also include the name service, which is the identity in our own ecosystem, which is called DAO. Will form the semantic layer, and all the applications, the community DAOs constructed on top will be the application layer. and we leverage lit protocol for the privacy and permission control, and we leverage RWare for the permanent storage, and also the graph for indexing. Okay, so building this structure of decentralized society is definitely powerful for the next wave, which is expanding the reach of the blockchain beyond the social sector and bring it to the new hat, which is the decentralized society, building the values for the ecosystem for the long term, building the common knowledge of the whole ecosystem, and building the semantic layer for this ecosystem that have long-lasting value and benefits all as a public goods. So this is a good way to model the decentralized society and bring the ecosystem to the next level. Okay, so today I talk about something which is futuristic, that how the future communities, the future organizations, and the future social networking will be looking like, and the basic of how to reach there and how to build all those futuristic things. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Teenagers in China and Asia have been crazy about SNH48 group, which is the largest youth female idol group in the world. And the Meta 48 is the company behind them. Currently, they're transitioning their focus into Web3 and XR by providing a social metaverse and growth system for real and virtual idols and idol groups. Our next speaker, Ken Xu, is Meta 48's Director of International Operations with over 10 years of entertainment industry experience. He'll talk about the SocialFi and idol fan community. Please welcome Ken.
Thank you very much for the introduction. I think the MC has a very great voice. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ken. I am the director for Project Meta. Hello? Okay. I'm the director for Project Meta 48. Thank you. And I'm here to talk about the idol fan community and why they are a perfect natural fit for Web3 and SocialFi. Now, I think everyone has noticed that the number of Web3 users seem to wax and wane depending on the value of cryptocurrencies. Now, can you imagine if the number of Web2 users went up and down depending on the price of, say, Google stock? But that's the reality of what we see in Web3. Now, it's because a large portion of the user base is profit-driven. Now, to them, Web3 doesn't provide a better experience other than the potential of making a little more money. However, the idol fan community is different. Now, firstly, they are not looking for profit. In fact, they're looking to spend. Secondly, they're looking for functionality to enhance their experience, making them pretty much immune to crypto price fluctuations. Thirdly, they are motivated to move to Web3 permanently if their idols are also in Web3. And lastly, they have a real unfulfilled need that can be met through Web3 solutions. And all of this I will go into detail later. But first, an introduction to what's at the core of the idol fan community. Now, this is the game that they all take part in, and it's the method used to create the idols. And it's known as, let me get this, idol incubation. Now, the idol incubation model started off in Japan as a grassroots talent management model. And due to its effective bottom-up approach, it has spread rapidly throughout East Asia and Southeast Asia. Now, one of the biggest differences from other training models is, let's take Korean groups as an example. See, they train for 4 to 5 years privately and then debut as a fully formed performance group. But with the incubation model, the idols debut almost immediately with minimal training. Now, this is because the idols need to build rapport with their fans as soon as possible. The idols need to be malleable so that the fans can influence and direct the idol's development. And over time, the community members who believe in the potential of the same idol form fan clubs and establish a group consensus. Secondly, there is a voting mechanism where fans purchase voting vouchers, which then they cast for their idols. And the number of votes an idol receives determines the media resources that they get, such as singles releases, music videos, TV shows, and movies, and so on. So the fans get to choose and decide who becomes a star. There is an economic system that's self-sustaining. For example, the idols draw in the fans. The fans spend to support their idols. The idols go up in the rankings. Revenue generated from the fans are used to create idol-related content. The content create or convert more people into becoming fans, and more fans generate more money, making the idol more valuable. So we have group consensus, community decisions, and economic model, and this is the core of the idol incubation process, and it's actually quite Web3. It's also very effective. Now, we've used it for the past 10 years to create China's largest female idol group, SNH48. And the group has currently over 30 million fans around the world. And this economic model has been proven to work. Now, we currently generate over $200 million annually from this. Now, it might be difficult to fully grasp what an idol voting event is like, so I've prepared a video for a more visual demonstration. So if we can play video 1, please.
353万3525票，恭喜孙瑞！
恭喜孙瑞！
All right, so the annual rankings event is also a pay-per-view event that we hold once a year, where we have about 1 million people who pay around 40 to 60 RMB to watch. It takes place physically at the largest stadiums with over 50,000 people capacity, and tickets sell for upwards of about $1,000 each. It's one of the 5 different annual live events that we hold every year. We've created celebrities with big fan followings, and they all started from the ground up, getting to where they are one vote at a time. We have a talent pool of over 200 idols with new talent joining every year, so there is an of idols to keep the game going. However, there are limitations in Web2 that has held back the full potential of idol incubation in its fan community, and that's where Web3 comes in. The fans have been yearning for something more. They want greater transparency, which can strengthen trust in the idol incubation process. The fans want to see exactly how their money is spent and where it's going. They want true ownership of their idols' created content, something that's achievable through NFTs. They want greater involvement in idol management, which can also be done through a DAO process. They already create value, but in Web3, we can give that value back as a reward to the community. We can enhance their idol incubation experience through better voting, VR live streaming, GameFi, SocialFi elements, and digital asset creation. Basically, everything they want is finally possible in Web3, and we are more than happy to hand the reins over to the fan community. And finally, we get to the fans themselves. Now, the idol fan community is self-organizing, meaning that they have their own community mods that organize, coordinate, and mobilize. They are highly motivated. Now, we've experimented by running events in Decentraland with very limited instructions, and many of them were able to figure it out how to access the program. We were able to quickly reach the server limits. And of course, they have spending power, something I want to show you just in a minute. And okay, I have another video prepared that shows the fan community at one of our handshake events. So please play video 2. so we held this event at the Shanghai Expo Center. We had 50,000 people turn up, which was the maximum capacity allowed by the venue. And they all had to buy handshake vouchers, which cost about 8 to 10 US dollars for a 10-second handshake. And a lot of them came in with huge stacks of vouchers, like super thick. So once again, spending power. Currently, the fans' participation start with content consumption, which includes live performances, video streaming, music, and in-person events. And that was slowly social engagement, which is what we're aiming for. But when they start joining communities, so when they form fan clubs and work together to help their idol achieve new heights. After that, they get into the group consensus of the fan community and start creatively contributing. You know, they're able to create fan videos and memorabilia and idol-themed knickknacks for sale among the group themselves. And that forms their own small little ecosystem. And all of that fits perfectly with Web3 and SocialFi. And we believe with conviction from 10 years of operating experience that if you take care of the fans, they will come. And lastly, I'd like to share a short video of what we're doing. So please play video 3. We are bringing the entire idol incubation process into Web3, and we are enhancing the experience with SocialFi and GameFi elements. Now, this is what the fans want. They tell us very directly, sometimes through hate mail, and our goal is to satisfy their needs, but we can't do that by ourselves. It's a co-creation process with everyone here. And together, we can bring in this community of millions of new users who will stay and make Web3 their new home. And that concludes my presentation. My name is Ken with Meta48, and our booth is at B19, so if you have time, drop by and say hello. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken. Okay, next is today's first panel. We'll discuss about imagine the future of decentralized society. It's moderated by our moderator Sanjay Pavli, the co-founder of CryptoMind Group Holdings, Thailand's leading pioneer in digital asset financial services and investment product development. Sanjay helped introduce a wide range of such services to Thailand. Sanjay will be joined by our 5 panelists. The first panelist, Chas, is the CEO of Hogwarts Labs and the Quest-N co-founder. Quest-N was previously known by many as Quest3. It is a Web3 platform incubated by Hogwarts Labs, where users can earn tokens and NFT badges by participating in events and quests. It aims to be the Web3 native advertising platform. Our second panelist, Vicky Zhang. Hence, the marketing and partnership of DotBit. DotBit is a cross-chain centralized identity protocol for individual users and DAOs. It was founded by 4 ex-Tencent colleagues. A third panelist, Emmett Charles, is the developer relations lead of Clarus. Clarus is a decentralized arbitration protocol for all kinds of smart contract disputes. Our fourth panelist, Jonathan Lintala, the CEO and co-founder of Favor. Favor is the gateway to Web3 social and the biggest application on Lens protocol. It's so easy that anyone using an email address can use it on their iOS or Android device. Jonathan is an ex-Googler on advertising for over a decade. Our last panelist, Xiang Yufu, is a partner and the COO of Ownership Labs and Dataverse. Dataverse is built by Ownership Labs. It's a Web3 folder system on top of decentralized data management and trusted computing technology. It allows users to take full control of their aggregate Web2 and Web3 data alike. Please join me in welcoming our moderator and panelists. Thank you.
Hello. Is mic working now? Yeah. Right, just testing it out. So what an exciting day to have my fellow panelists here today as well. So I think like the first question that we want to jump in first, right before I would like you guys to introduce your project a bit, like a brief intro on what you guys do, how long you guys been in the space, and what you guys are building at the moment. Yeah. So maybe start off with Chess. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, I think you have to speak a bit louder, but yeah.
Yeah. Please, can you loud the mic, please? Sorry. Yeah. Hello, my name is Chess, and I'm from Cogos Labs, and our first DApp named Question. Question is like aggregator for earning, and we want to like help all the users, help the Web3 project to distribute their tokens and to growth and marketing and analyze their users. And also for users, you can earn tokens every day through our product. And I was like joining the crypto since 2018, and this is my fifth year. Yeah, that's for me.
Yeah, so quite a advanced user in the crypto space and been in the space for a while. So Vicky, can you share about to us as well?
Hi. Can you guys hear me? Okay. So hi everyone, I'm Vicky from DotBit. So DotBit is a decentralized identity service, and the main difference of DotBit from all of the other competitors is we are fully cross-chain, and we can go so you can use all different kinds of public chain address to manage and control the DotBit identity service. And we're heading to launch our sub-DID distribution platform next month. So that means we are going to provide the next infrastructure for DAOs and communities as a Web3 solution.
Yep.
Hey, so I'm Emmett. I'm a Claros, and so you can think of Claros as basically a credibly neutral decision oracle, where you can pass in subjective questions, whether that be in payment disputes or content moderation disputes or addressing like decentralized curation. Basically anything that you can format into a subjective question and you need to get an answer decision for that, you can pass that into Claros, and using a game theoretic model based around shelling points, then yeah, we can pass that decision on chain and then execute some logic from there.
Yep. Jonathan?
Yeah. Hey everyone, my name is Jonathan, or Jonathan, anything goes, from Favor. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of the app. And right now we're one of the biggest apps in the Web3 social space with over 100,000 weekly active and over 50,000 daily active users. We're multi-protocol, so we were first built on the Lens protocol and later also integrated with CyberConnect and look to also integrate further platforms down the line. And the favorite mobile apps on iOS and Android are a way to access those, even if you don't have a wallet or even if you don't have the whitelist for those specific applications. Then when you have, for example, your Lens profile, you connect it and then everything starts going on chain for you. So we're trying to make the adoption easy for also the more mainstream users.
Okay, hello, I'm Xiangyu Fu from Ownership Labs. We are committed to building the Dataverse operating system. Dataverse operating system is a Web3 native operating system that focuses on protecting user sovereignty of data ownership and helping users take back their identities and data on the internet.
Yeah, perfect. So I think we have quite a diverse group of panelists here, right? From decentralized like social platform, data, identity, various type of like sector, I think within the subsector of decentralized social platform. So I think the first question I would like to ask, right? I mean, anybody can start off, kick off the gear a bit, right? So I think like we are talking about like centralized nature type of platform, whether you're using Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or whatnot, TikTok, right? One of them. So compared to the decentralized version, obviously the user size is much lower at the moment, right? Compared to the traditional centralized platform. So I think the first question I'd like to kick off is let's talk about the benefit of the decentralized nature of these platforms and over the centralized one. So maybe who would want to share? I think I'll just leave. Okay, maybe Jonathan, and then if anyone has to add, like maybe 2 or 3 of you can add on to the point as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously we're betting heavily on the decentralized social graphs, and I think, oops. Actually after we already kind of made that bet and started building on Lens, then luckily enough kind of Elon Musk came and proved us right. So I think Twitter is now a perfect example of what happens when you're not decentralized. One person, at the time the world's richest guy before he bought Twitter, decided to buy the entire platform and control everything. No board, no shareholders, one person controls everything, and usually that does not lead into good things. Same at Facebook and Instagram, Mark Zuckerberg controls the whole thing. So when you actually decentralize the control of the graph in the background, it means that not one single person can actually go and take the entire kind of graph and start, for example, censoring things to their liking.
Yeah, so I think...
Yeah, maybe I totally agree with Jonathan with what he said, and maybe I can add a little bit on that. So talking about the centralized platforms, people are saying that data and all of our relationship are stored and controlled by third parties. And I guess many people are talking about what is the true value of Web3. And people will come up with the idea of called sovereignty. So I think the question then, to me, the shining points of decentralized platforms, social platforms, is the idea of relationship sovereignty. So the relationship is no longer controlled and stored by the third parties. That means, like, for example, Donald Trump lost his Twitter account. He lost all of his followers and following relationships. But for decentralized social platforms, communities, creators, and KOLs control their own following relationships. So that gives them more possibilities to maybe move all of the relationships to other platforms in the future, no longer rely to one single platform.
Yeah, so I think that's a very interesting concept, the concept of decentralized relationship and ownership of that, yeah. I think Emmett have something to add. I don't know.
Yeah. I was just gonna say that what I'm most bullish about when it comes to decentralized social applications is on the content side, where you can have content moderation done in, well, you can tweak that around the spectrum of decentralization that you'd want. Like maybe you want some community input in like what content should taken down or moderated, or maybe you want that fully owned by the community. But either way you go about that, in my opinion, is much better than having like one shadowy group of fact checkers and like basically people to police. I mean, that whole concept of who polices the police, basically. And yeah, in a decentralized context, you can have that be delegated to the community.
Yep. So the community kind of help police each other and like try to moderate the content, right? Yeah. Do you have anything to add? Oh, see your film first.
Okay, thank you. We talked about relationship sovereignty. I want to say there's also social content sovereignty, data sovereignty in centralized social platforms. The centralized social platforms store all the user data centrally in their server and database and promise us not to cheat on us. But we are forced to believe that because we have no choice, and it actually all depends on legal statements, conditions, and items, and so on. And with decentralized social platforms and protocols, maybe user social content could be stored, with a user-centric solution, could be fully controlled by users themselves, and with both relationship sovereignty and social content, or I say user data sovereignty, we could provide users with a complete decentralized social experience.
Yeah, I think that point we can touch on later a bit on the DAO, the user-centric and the governance of it as well. Yeah, maybe Chess have something to add on this point.
Yeah, I totally agree with the guy's opinion, but I want to add one more. It's like all the users like. Decentralized social is the key. Is like now I paid $100 million like in Douyin or TikTok, and when I came to Kuaishou or like YouTube, I'm still new because YouTube don't know I'm so rich, right?
Yeah.
So that's the data like for decentralized is key. Now there's many social apps like we use WeChat to like for the families, for the friends. We use like Tinder. For the stranger guys, right? We use like many different social. The data for decentralized network effect is the key. Like you can take all the data to different apps. That's I think really. Yeah.
So kind of like self-sovereignty of the data that you have in the different app. In the future, the integration can be a decentralized social app are run out, right? Yeah, I think that could be a point to be taken into consideration as well in this sector. So let me jump into the concept of DAO a bit, right? And then there's, I think there's school of thought on this, right? Whether some project need a token, NFT, what will the user reward mechanism be, right? I mean, these are some of the points that I think decentralized platforms should think about, and also how to reward user and the platform and the creator and the participant in the platform as well. So maybe my question to the panelists is probably like, how does DAO work in this context, and what kind of the role of governance play and balance out? Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't mind me kicking this off. So there, as you mentioned, there are multiple schools of thought. We could pretty much take up the whole rest of the panel just talking about different like political philosophy that goes behind DAOs. But to keep things simple, I think the most important thing to think about when striking a balance is community ownership in relation to or relative to the goals of a product or the goals of the underlying organization or protocol that the DAO is governing. So let's say, for example, a public goods product or public goods protocol. Well, in that case, then it probably makes the most sense to go more towards the side of full community ownership, maybe even implement some democratic processes like one person, one vote, or quadratic voting. But if we're talking, and maybe my opinion here is a little bit controversial, but if we're talking about social applications, which can be thought of as products, tech products, and if you want, assuming that we as users generally want these applications to be competitive against the likes of Instagram and Twitter, then it would probably be more reasonable to have some sort of, to still have the users get a say. Obviously, there should be open discourse, but maybe to actually favor the community members in the DAO with more skin in the game. And to put this in more frank terms, is implement more of a plutocracy over democracy, where the majority shareholders in the DAO, which is governing a product, since they have more skin in the game, it's reasonable to assume they'd have more to lose based on the success or failure of a decentralized Twitter, for example. So in that case, their opinions should, or their say should probably hold more weight, given their skin in the game.
Yep. All right. I think, yeah.
Yeah, I think for Favor, we're looking to kind of do gradual decentralization and form a DAO in the future for our users. But I do agree on the point that, especially in the early days, like developing by consensus of like democratic voting doesn't really work because like nobody really knows exactly how to build a decentralized social app that actually is competitive, for example. So it's just kind of constant iteration, and it has to be done by the people who work on it full time. And then later on, there will be kind of bigger questions that can be put into a vote. But I think control that users get, for example, in Favor, is that from day one onwards, we gave away the ownership of the social graph. So by building on Lynch protocol, it means that if we don't give people a vote and we do something that the majority of the users don't like, they can go to another application that has all of their friends, their followers, their content. That means that they have the power even if there is no exact vote about it, because the only way we keep our users is by making sure that we build for them. And then the other part of kind of the DAO, the rewarding, we're kind of looking at rolling out the token already this summer, where we see that kind of for the rewards, if we build that sort of in-game economy in a proper way, we can start rewarding people well before it becomes a DAO, and then later those same tokens can also be used as a proxy for voting on various decisions. But it's a gradual process of we all build what's kind of right for the users.
So more user-centric approach, and you can have more say in the platform, right? So I think anybody have something else to add on that point?
Yeah, actually, I would think of DAO as a new way of how data, or I say valuable social content, how data and valuable social content are put together and aggregate and filter out the best of it. And I think, like I said before, so decentralized social platforms should allow users to control their own data, and if they could, it's an interest group, and they are organized as a DAO, and in that form, in that case, the DAO is also, a database of the good content, the valuable content of this under this topic, and the data value in it is what we are focused on, and we are committed to make use of it.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I think Vicky, it looks like you have something to add.
Yes, so I totally agree with what Jonathan and Amit says. So I guess in real life there are already a lot of thousands different kinds of governance methods existed. So there are also going to be a lot of governance possibilities. So probably I say I hope there will be more modular tools for DAOs to use in the future for governance. So I think I will touch less on the governance parts, but in terms of DAOs and decentralized social apps, the relationship can be concluded in two ways. The first is to encourage DAOs to onboard more decentralized social apps. Because DAO as the organization methods, they are the first kind of organization methods to embrace Web3. So they are more likely to use and to adopt different decentralized social applications. The first group to onboard and to try. And also for the decentralized social application itself can be organized, can be, so like their workload can be distributed for DAOs. And I guess that's two ways, like from my side, to regard like these relationship between DAOs and social DAOs.
I think that's that like the DAO can help bootstrap and like build the platform as well, right? In a way, yeah. Do you have any more pointer for us?
Yeah. I think like I don't want to say so. I want to say something negative because like till now, I don't think there's a DAO can count successfully because we are talking about social. Social needs you really need to have a mass adoption. Like for now, if DAO only have like 1,000 or like 10,000 people, I don't think it's mass adoption. So I think DAO still cannot be successfully now. And for social, you need like for the product team, like for Favor, the product. I don't think their team is a DAO because if you build something really very complex and very difficult, DAO cannot solve that question. I think for us, we are still a like strong team and deeply connected and work together. So I think the only way for the big DAO and call yourself a DAO is not the same thing. Yeah, that's how I would say.
Yeah, so I think the interesting point just is that we go back to the value market as well, right? So whether it's a decentralized platform or centralized, right? Ultimately, we want to have the best experience and the best outcome for what they use as well. So I think that's still the key here, right? Not only like you can claim yourself to be decentralized and all the user will flow in. Right? That's still like a lot of bottleneck and the as well on the adoption on this cycle. So let's, I think the other point that I would like to bring up on this topic is about like, so we have, for example, right, the monetization of like the user, for example, like Facebook is using like data, sell to like different company, people buying ad, user just people who just trade in with their data, right, but not monetizing themselves. So I think we can change that in the decentralized nature. What are some of the, I would like to say some of the issue on this point, right? Whether it's about user data security and the experience. I mean, you guys have some pointers on that and like what we see are happening, or what are your thoughts on this point on the protection of user data privacy, first of all? I think that's the important part, and the monetization on the user data. Yeah. So would want to kick off, maybe Chess kick off this time.
I think for like 90% of the users, they don't care about privacy. Yeah, it's true, right? Because losing our data, we are losing our privacy, right? Like, so I think if your goals is for mass adoption, privacy is not the, I think at least not the primary thing for a startup company or for a project, but it's very important. And I think like, I want to say a concept is like, blockchain is about ledger, right? In the past like decades, years, all the ledger about transactions. That's why DeFi and NFT can be so successfully. But I think like 2 years later, all the ledgers will about like DataFi, because all the ledger is about the users. So only if the users the data really changes and they can control it by their case, they can like delegate it to some like Favor, question, or many interesting projects as their agency, and the user can be earned the data every day. Like for most of people, like I'm a Twitter user. My data was controlled by Twitter. I delegated the data to Elon Musk, and Elon Musk like earned many monies every day. He shared me automatically, and each day I open Twitter. Oh, $5. Oh, I can claim them and swap to any tokens. I think that's the key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of like the first sort of privacy, separate sort of the data that kind of is and should be public, and then the data that probably should not be spied upon. So it's if you look at Web2, and like I spent 10 years working for like Google, one of the biggest Facebook advertising companies out there. So I've been on the dark side, and TikTok and Douyin are just as bad on that. So kind of in reality, for example, right now in the US, like the Congress is thinking about banning TikTok because they're worried, like, are the Chinese spying on America with TikTok, out of all things? And if you look at it, what they will know through TikTok is that what kind of dance videos you like, what kind of cat videos you like, what's your like general interest in funny short videos. And that is not very private, very sensitive information for most people. And what actually is kind of a much bigger issue with, for example, TikTok is that the US cannot control kind of who decides the algorithm and what kind of videos are being shown to teenagers. And that's a much more dangerous thing than does China know what kind of videos American teenagers are looking at. But then the other thing comes from the stuff that you kind of shouldn't be tracking. And if you look at Facebook, for example, they read every single messenger conversation you have so they can target advertising for you. Track your GPS to tell advertisers whether you went to their store or not. Google tracks your Gmail inbox content. Google and Facebook and pretty much everybody, they track every single website you visit, every single product you look at in every single e-commerce store out there, every single email you write. And that's the stuff that has nothing to do with the actual social and who you follow and what you post. And that's the kind of much bigger problem with privacy in social media in general. And that's one where kind of Web3 can solve it with kind of simple selection and kind of choice. So let's say this protocol that we've built on, if you have one application that tracks you all around the internet, GPS, you have another app that's just as doesn't do any of those things, you probably want to take a second one just by giving people that choice where to access your Facebook graph, the only way to do it, or Instagram, the only way to do it is you give away your entire privacy, and that's the only app that's available. But then if the social graph is owned by the users can decide do they want to give away their privacy or do they want to keep their privacy. And what we're, for example, looking at for advertising is that advertising is still a valuable model and you need data for advertising, but we can actually pay the users to voluntarily give us information about what you're interested in, or use our referral codes when they go and buy something from a favor ad. So we can give them back favor points, which then become favor. And that way kind of make it actually a fair trade. If you give information, you get compensated. If you don't want to give information, you don't. But kind of that choice in the background means that you can't do these sort of very sketchy tracking practices. But it will offer an option that doesn't do those, and you lose.
Yeah, so I think that you highlight quite a few important points on the traditional like social media or the way data is handled. So I think it makes me think of like a platform like Brave as well, right? A lot of people are using Brave browser instead of like traditional Chrome or whatnot. What was it in the market? I think it looks like Vicky have something to add.
I mean, I agree. Maybe this question can be divided into two parts: the applications part and from user side. From application side is more about the intention. So do not have users off-chain KYC information and with the on-chain activity, and do provide more possibilities and choices for users to choose if they want to submit their data or not. From user side, it's done, I guess, a long time, like Chas says, many users do not care about the price. You do need a long time to do the marketing education for users to understand what the current results of Web2, what we want to do, blockchain do, whatever it is, to anti the censorship, the centralized part, and it need a time for the ultimate value of Web3.
Yeah, so in the Web3 world, we can actually solve currently happening in the Web2 world, right? I think, but the users still think like, so maybe this or not yet.
Oh no.
All right. So all right.
So maybe 10% of users don't care about privacy. I think this is exactly why we need to, develop a safe tool, a browser, an operating system to protect them from the private data being stolen. And I think we should advocate users to encrypt their data on the client side rather than the server side, so that only the user themselves could decrypt the data. The platforms and the applications and so on. And actually, nowadays we have decentralized access control systems like lead protocol to help us to safely store the encryption key, the secret key of data on a decentralized network, and ensure that only the user themselves could access the secret key and then decrypt the data. I think actually data privacy is very important in social networks, and we should build better, better interface and users to seamlessly enjoy the security of the data.
Just going to play a bit of devil advocate at this point, right? I mean, like, we talk about like user experience, adoption rate, and like a lot of DAO concept, right? So as a user, right, like we go back to like product market fit, value proposition, the experience of the user. So for example, like the big in this case, right? Like, I mean, you can call them from gaming, right? Like Axie was peak at 2.8 million users, right? You look at app like ChatGPT, they gain 100 million users within like. In terms of Web3, right, it's still very small, right? So I would like to talk about more in the future, like what do you guys see as the future of a decentralized social platform, and how it look like, and what would be the kind of like like killer app on how much adoption and how will this be adopted, or what are the roadblocks here that we are having at this moment in time to go there, and maybe like a few predictions, and by what year we'll reach there as well. Yeah. It's a tough question, I know, but like, just give us some vision on this sector a bit.
Yeah, I want to come at this from a bit more of a pragmatic point of view. I know like, the Web3 culture, we kind of want to be like, oh, this is definitely going to be the future.
Yeah.
But I think it's ultimately going to be the case that we're going to have to accept two coexisting things, like the paradigm of centralization and the one of decentralization. And obviously, I think the lowest hanging fruit here is the bad UX. I mean, unless there's a super compelling like reason, basically, or like a breach of privacy that just can't be ignored in the centralized side, there is a vast majority of users who are gonna wanna like set up a wallet and sign transactions, and even doing gasless. Even that is still a barrier. Like when you compare that to Web2 apps, you don't need to do anything. You don't even need to sign the transaction for a relayer, do some gasless stuff. It's just like you open the app, you tweet, you message, you do whatever you want without thinking about anything on the back end. So I think, and even if those UX problems are sorted out, we do also need to account for the percentage of users that actually trust and want to have good faith in the establishment. And those users do exist. They're the ones that like, oh, what's with this Web3 decentralization? These are like a bunch of rebels. They're like anarchy or whatever. I mean, we do need to acknowledge that there will be the naysayers regardless of how good UX becomes. So I don't want to see the future of decentralized social as like, oh, we're gonna definitely take over like Mark Zuckerberg and whatnot. Because at the end of the day, even the development process and the organizational hurdles, there are organizational hurdles that come with doing things in a decentralized way. Like even if we do try to be efficient with how we do things as a DAO, Mark Zuckerberg and Meta doing things in their silo, they are, at the end of the day, going to be able to ship things faster, iterate more quickly without needing to worry about like any immutability on chain and whatnot. So time to ship product is always going to be faster in Web2. And then people who are not so picky about decentralization and just want good experiences with their product, well, the edge, I think, is always going to go to Web2 in terms of good, usable product.
Yeah, so I think from your point of view, right, the user experience is still not there, and the people are still leaning toward on the Web2.
I mean, even if the user experience does get there, I think there will be reasonable cases to still use Web2 applications, and I think that's just something.
I think, I get your point. So I think more people, Jonathan might have to add. Maybe we keep it a bit short. Yeah.
So I think overall, obviously, right now it's very early days. So Favor has been in the first year getting around 200,000 users, out of whom around 100,000 come back every week. So we have kind of a good, fairly small, loyal community in the early days, but of course still need to add like 2 or 3 zeros in those numbers for them to really be kind of mainstream social media. But I think how I look at it is sort of very similar to the adoption of email back in the day, where when I got my first email from my school back in the day, like none of my parents or friends had email addresses, and it was something that was still fairly complicated, and the email addresses looked really weird. It was your username that you chose somewhere, and a lot of dots at the end of every single part of the domain. Like something new, and nowadays like my grandmother has 2 email addresses and she uses them daily and emails me pictures of puppies, she's actually also a Favor user, so we built our user experience in a way where she can now look at those puppies also on Favor.
So Favor kind of passed the mom and pop test in this case.
Yes, that's the ultimate benchmark, where I wanted to make sure that the user experience of signing up to Favor is something my grandmother can do without my help, because I need to help her with way too many IT things already. And it's all about kind of figuring out those user experiences where you're not bringing that kind of blockchain and that wallet to the front and center, and making weird complex wallet addresses and private keys and all of this that should be kind of in the background. Just like nowadays you don't have to know what a POP3 or an IMAP is in order to use your email. And still 10, 15 years ago, that was kind of like reality. So I think we're getting there, and in the end, for example, for social, like you don't have to understand anything about blockchain, but if you get asked as a mainstream consumer, would you rather have a social profile that nobody can take away from you and that you can use in hundreds of different applications and they all have your followers and your content? Or would you like to have 10 different social profiles that can be taken away from you and have to be used separately and you have no control over them? You don't have to mention blockchain in any way, but that's kind of the trade-off, and I think ultimately everybody will conclude that once the experience is good enough, that's a significantly nicer option, and that can be the only difference between the previous social app and the next social app. You essentially sign in with the next generation of email that's not only your address, but also your content.
Okay, so maybe a quick question to you. When is the milestone for 1 million daily active user on Favor?
I think with this growth rate, we're hoping to hit it still this year. The token will be released this summer, so that should be boosting quite nicely the adoption as well.
Perfect.
The magic word.
All right. So, Xiang?
Actually, we were talking about artificial intelligence like ChatGPT. It's a super app, brings many users to this area. And I want to introduce a new challenge brought by the AI technology. Because AIs like ChatGPT could generate a huge amount of social content in a second, and maybe someday this AI-generated content could take over the either Web2 or Web3 social platforms. It will be very important to distinguish whether a social account is created by a real person or a robot.
Yeah, I think now people are still already starting using ChatGPT for their Twitter social media posts. Or very good point. So I think AI would probably be one of the future. Maybe Chess, give us a quick.
Yeah, 2 points. Social should be a basic function for all the apps. Yeah. Like I want to talk to you, like in Favor, like in Chrome, in Safari, even in WeChat, because like all the address is the basic ID for all the Web3 users. So I think social is a basic function, not only like social apps, like for even your game, your many things. And the second is now like Favor. I know Favor is built on Lens, right? Pay all the gases on Polygon for all the users. What if like Lens have 10x or 100x the double the data? Lens cannot afford it. Yeah. So app chain is the only way, I think. So the social app, if you want to like all the data on chain, you should build your own app chain. You turn into your cost from paying the gas for users into like basic tokens. I think that's the basic way. I think
Wow. Interesting point. Yeah. Vicky?
Yes. Actually, I don't have much more to add on because if you go through all of the booths in this exhibition center, most of them are thinking like how to go for mass adoption. Like guess maybe more than half of the projects are already thinking how to erase the barriers for normal users to enter Web3. So it's a very common topic right now. And I guess I don't think it will take too long, but still, I agree. People will no longer need to realize if it's a Web2 or Web3 social platforms. But in the end, they will see like if these platform is good to use and a good place for social. The final criteria to choose which one to survive.
Yeah, so goes back to the value proposition of the platform, user experience, and also what the benefit of the user are, right? So I think, yeah, that's pretty it for this panel, right? I think thanks you guys so much for sharing insight I learned a lot from this panel, from various sectors in the decentralized social place. And I think we kind of take a glimpse in the future on what it will look like. But I'm pretty sure we have some idea, but it remains to be seen as well, how it evolves over time, right? So thank you all as well, and thank the audience as well for today. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we'll be back in 10 minutes. We'll have a 10-minute break. And after break, we'll have a lot of exciting stuff to come. So don't go away. Do come back and join us. We'll reconvene at 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock. Thank you. Let's start. Now, welcome back. Much anticipated fireside chat. The word RV comes from the Finnish word. It's a very popular word. The founder and the CEO of the RV company. And the Lens protocol. Composable social graph web protocol, letting the creators take ownership of their content. Stanley today will join us online and chat with Yi Tang, the principal at Qiming Venture Partners, a leading venture capital from China. Yi is the investor behind Evestone's IM token and the ZK Layer 2 rollup scroll. Prior to his current job, Yi was the Consensus China lead. So please, welcome Stanley and Yi for Lens Protocol, the social layer of Web3.
I'm Yi from Qiming Venture Partners. We are one of the leading venture capital firms in Asia, and we are active investing in the Web3 space as well. Today, first, I want to give my thank you to Wanxiang Blockchain Labs and Hashkey Group, who organized this awesome Hong Kong Web3 festival. In this panel, in this fireside chat, we have great pleasure to get the founder Stanley from Aave company to talk about Lens protocol. So first of all, Stanley, could you give a quick intro of yourself? I think many of the audience today already know you, but a quick brief intro would be helpful.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely. So I could mention that I've been now building blockchain-based protocols for a few years. I got very excited about the Ethereum ecosystem back in 2016 and 2017. Started to build the predecessors, what is today the DAO protocol. And effectively what the protocol is that you can supply cryptographic assets into the protocol, earn yield of those assets, and then use them as a collateral and borrow other type of assets from the protocol in a transparent way, non-custodial way. And most exciting thing about the DAO protocol is that it's governed by the DAO. So the the founding team that is contributing to further build the protocol, we can't change different kinds of parameters or the code itself. It has to go through a formal governance process. So currently, the Aave protocol is holding roughly more than 5 billion worth of assets, and during the peak DeFi season, it was holding more towards 20 billion worth of assets. And the more of like a vision is that with Aave, we're providing access to financial or social opportunities. So that's the key ingredients. And more recently, I've been trying to solve another important issue. So we connect together in real life and do that more over online. So we form connections, we share news, and we consume content, but we don't really own the presence that we create online today. So we built the Lens protocol more recently, and the idea is that you have the ownership over your online presence and control over your audience, and you can port your social media profile from one application to another one, which is the key thing. So I'm pretty much always excited about innovation and building something new and solving a important problem in our society by using the blockchain technology. And funny thing is, actually, I was still a student when I found Aave actually in the dorm room, so that was pretty wild times in the beginning. But now we're a company and a team with 80 people that are building software, open source software, contributing to these protocols. Yeah, that's this short version of the background.
So I'm also trying to think, because Lens is aiming, based on my understanding, is aiming to become a social protocol, right? So, and there are other multiple initiatives trying to kind of targeting the Web3 social problems from different angles. There are some other protocols or applications or some other projects somewhat kind of stand somewhere in between. So what's your point of view? Like, do you think there will be multiple social protocols coexist for a very long time? Is social protocol more like L1, L2 protocols, and there are multiple ones for a long time, or it's more like ERC20 kind of standards that everybody just kind of adopting pretty much one set of standard?
Yeah, no, it's a fascinating question. I've been sometimes thinking about it. I mean, we're building the Lens protocol towards the direction that is going to be an ERC20 type of a standard. It's open source. It's available to anyone. The code is public, so that's the kind of ethos of the direction we're building. And because it's modularized, anyone can actually come and build a module and let other users to use that module. That could be like a new logic to collect content. So typical modules are, just to give an example, is that you can come and collect the content if you follow the user. So a new module is a new type of follow rules, like you can follow a user if you have a specific NFT in your wallet or a specific token balance. Pay to follow is another module. You could use subscription modules as well for following. So it just shows like how open the design space is for composability. So I would expect that Lens protocol will basically it will evolve significantly from there. And then what could be fascinating to see is that all these different networking primitives, they kind of like bring something new for the users, so it will make sense that the user is a citizen of all of them somehow. I believe it's important. And I've never believed in a concept that winner takes all. And I don't see the networking space as a kind of like a competition either. So I just think that we need to bring a lot of tools for the users and see what they are most excited about and build towards that direction. And the more people that are building, the more decentralized the ecosystem is, and I think that's the right path to go.
I see, got it. Another question I have, I was thinking about asking this later, but I think I'll ask it now, because it's kind of related to the protocol discussion. So what would be the possible like monetization model or pattern for social network protocol? If it's more like a standard, then I guess monetization might not even be a topic, right? And if it's a protocol like a L1, L2 protocol, then it does, in fact, it does have monetization strategy or monetization model. So what kind of model are you thinking of or could be possible?
Yeah, it's interesting because the design space is indeed open. So because it's an open protocol, you can simply build anything you want on top. So for a couple of decades now, most of the social media networking has been relying upon advertisement, and that has been skewing the KPIs also to the direction of how long the users are spending time on the application, how actively they come back, and that helps to price the amount that you can charge the advertisers as well. So I think the ad business can definitely be available in Web3 social, but I think the big difference is here that the actual power is on the user's hand. So the way Lens works is that when you create a profile, you own that profile. So you're not a number in a database, and the people that follow you, you also own that relationship with your audience. So that can't be taken away from you. So it puts the users in a bit more privileged position, and it also means that they have more choice. So if you're using an application or an algorithm that shows you the content or the ads, whatever they are, that aren't relevant for you, you can easily, in a very liquid way, change the applications that you're using. So there is no locking mechanism from that perspective. And I think why it's important is that it makes those ads to look something like actually more personalized, but also more brands and things that are really something that you are interested in. So we probably will see more collaborations and actually fascinating ads coming. But I think even bigger thing that has been working pretty well now is the ability to collect content of the users. So currently the whole Lens economy is somewhere between 3.5 and so million, including all the collects, mirror fees, follow fees, the profile FTs. So and the collects are a big part of that. So what we see is that a collect is a very high signal for users to appreciate someone's work or ideas and thoughts. So what we've seen is that a lot of users come and they collect each other's posts, and people who earn, they actually recycle those earnings back to collecting other users' posts, which is very cool. So it opened kind of like a very new design space. And if you think about content, you could actually collect someone's content and pay for the consumption, but not everyone needs to pay for the same thing. And this is something very interesting to think about because there's a lot of content today that we actually only a portion of the consumers pay, and the rest of the people are actually sharing indirectly or directly about the content. So that could be news that you read somewhere and you share with your friends. So, and the internet is built in a way where it's been open and public and accessible. And we've seen this kind of like moving towards a more like paywalled in an environment, for example, with more of the news media being available under subscriptions, and it's kind of fascinating to see like how internet is shaping as well. And subscriptions itself could be another business model. But what's valuable is actually that there's good feedback loop between all of the applications, algorithms, and the protocol itself. And one highlight is that I tend to talk about a lot is the content supply chain. What it means is that if you create a post content on, let's say, on Letster, someone shares it on Orb, and someone collects it on Butterfly based on some new algorithm, all those applications and the users involved and algorithms involved could actually share the fees in between. And this is available actually today already. So it showcases that the content can be created elsewhere, but then it can be collected this completely in a different application. And that results to a fee distribution across the whole content supply chain, which is super fascinating content and something that doesn't exist today anywhere.
That sounds very interesting. So it sounds like the channel of distribution is kind of decoupled from the decoupled in some fashion. So that's pretty fascinating, I would say.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, I see. So more questions on the end user experience side. You mentioned about some interesting stuff on the user end or on the application side already. So I'm curious, like what like right now, for example, for the initial user base, mostly of them are like Web3 native users, right? So what kind of initial features of lens or application or lens that kind of attract users the most? Like it's a key feature for them to adopt it or to use it in a very frequent way.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the excitement comes from the fact that end of the day, it's now a social network with Web3 users, and they love to talk to Web3 audiences. So what I've seen that is happening is that it's a place to feed news, but also it's a place to actually share your ideas that might relate to the Web3 space to the audience that understands it pretty well and is very engaged. Same for the brands and projects that are using Lens. So they use to bootstrap their audience from there, and usually the engagement is higher based on what we've seen at this point, where compared to more traditional social media platforms. So it brings interesting distribution as well for the users. But even though the audience is Web3 and people talk about crypto, they're all humans. So in that sense, you have different identities. So you might be talking about music, might be talking about food as well. The creator ecosystem is quite vibrant at this point. There's a lot of creators actually releasing music, for example, on Lens. A lot of artists are coming. And something that Lens has that a lot of these NFT platforms do not have is that distribution network and the audience. So I think that's one of those reasons, and the fact that you can really collect anything you create, so it's a low barrier to actually enter and create something interesting where other people can actually support. So the collecting content as NFTs is definitely that valuable aspect. And that ties into the bigger discussion about monetization. So because the protocol has built-in monetization, it's a positive sum game for every user. So that's built in, even if you don't see it on a daily basis. There's economics that are flowing between the users, which is in a healthy way, which is very fascinating to observe. So I think those are the elements that bring the users into the protocol and to use across all these applications that has been built or integrated with Lens.
Got it. I see. For in the future, let's look at in the long run. Let's say for the broader audience, right? Because initially, I think Web3 native users they care quite a lot about their information asset, their identity, etc., etc. But for the broader audience, I guess for many Web2 social network, they have issues with information security. They have algorithms that might be manipulated, and there are censorship problem. For those kind of users, like, do they care about like Web3 social or any problem that Web3 social protocol is solving at all? What's your view on that?
Yeah, something that Lens does very well is that it makes all this data public. So in the sense that typically when you build an algorithm, you work on a data that is inside a black box, a database, and usually you don't expose an algorithm. So what makes Lens different is that all that data is actually computable publicly. So you can use a public data set, and actually we deploy it. Obviously, the data is available on chain, and the on-chain is a register that actually reflects the content, because most of the almost all of the content is not stored on chain. So that's the biggest difference about Lens, is that it merely reflects where the content is actually located in, and it can be even in the traditional cloud, depending on the use case. But interestingly, that all that transactioning is publicly available, and we recently deployed a BigQuery public data set, so anyone can actually do different kinds of data findings, but also build algorithms on that data. So what we've done with Lens is that we democratize the computation of data and building algorithms, which means that there's more and more pressure to build open source algorithms, because the users can actually now, not only they can choose what they consume, but if you publish your algorithm, make it public, most likely you get more users, especially from an audience that is excited about building in public and open source. And that creates a lot of pressure of actually putting all these algorithms publicly available, and not just like how they compose, how do you connect different modules, but everything you do into the public. You can still build private algorithms. That's totally fine, but I think there's going to be open design space and monetization space for these algorithms, and they can be served across the whole Lens ecosystem. So that is very new to what exists today, and I personally think solves a lot of issues that we have with data today, with social media.
Cool. Yeah, I echo that quite a lot as well, because when I'm using my Twitter, I think the recommendation algorithm kind of frustrates me pretty often, and if there's a very large set of open source algorithm that I can choose, and some algorithm might give me a better experiences of exploring, then that's definitely helpful.
All right, I guess we are running out of time. So one last question is on the Lens ecosystem or Web3 social ecosystem, like what kind of problem that has not been solved yet that you are seeing? Like if the builder is working in this space and trying to improve the whole ecosystem, like what kind of areas they can work on or they can look at?
Yeah, I think one aspect is being able to build communities around the Lens ecosystem that is very fascinating problem to solve, and different ways to express your identity as well. So those two are super fascinating. I also appreciate good data initiatives as well. So any kind of analytics or algorithms itself is super exciting. So if there's anyone with some machine learning experience, for example, Lens is definitely the place to go.
You, Stanley, for all the great talks and the builder first approach of Lance protocol is taking is very exciting, and I hope at some point we are seeing like everybody in this in the audience will kind of start to adopt the Web3 social applications and protocols, and kind of heading into a open social space in the on blockchain. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you, Stanley. I appreciate the time.
Hello. Thank you very much. Next, in Web2, we have RSS. RSS is short for really simple syndication. A user can keep track of many different sites automatically in one single news aggregator by subscribing to RSS feeds. RSS3, inspired by the RSS protocol, combines it with the blockchain technology to become the next generation data distribution protocol. It's flexible, it's scalable and decentralized and efficient. Let's hear its founder, Joshua's vision on the free flow of information in the open web. Please welcome Joshua.
Thank you, guys. I'm Joshua. I'm the founder of RSS3. As introduced before, we work on the information dissemination protocol. Of course, it's inspired by RSS, according to the name. And today I'll be talking about the free flow of information in the open web. I'm going to start with the history. How do human beings actually disseminate information in the history before, right? In the digital age, it actually started with radios. If you look at one of these things back in your home, they won't give you more than 100 channels, right? They give you something on a dozen channels for you to listen to, and that's basically limited by the physical properties, because there are that much of frequencies for you to use, okay? And after radio, there came televisions, whereas on cable television or broadcast televisions, you will be able to get up to 500 different channels. But if you look at the number, 100 and 500, if you compare the population on Earth, you would know that this is basically impossible for everyone, or at least most people on Earth, to have their own channels to talk about themselves or have the online space for themselves in the digital world. And the introduction of internet changed all of these, right? So by the introduction, the internet came with IPv4, which automatically gives you more than 4.2 billion addresses. And all of these addresses will be used by one person or an organization, and every address can actually have more than one channel. So in 2007, one of the giants in the history of internet, which is also later on called the son of the internet, Aaron Swartz, also one of the core contributors to the original RSS protocol, had a very interesting quote. He said that now everyone has a license to speak. It's a question of who gets heard. And this is about how we want to shape the future of information flow, right? Who did get heard in Web 1? So let's look once again at the internet at that time. The first one that controls what kind of information we hear is Yahoo. Yahoo was extremely simple. It's basically a curation of a list of websites, right? It's a directory. And basically, the two cottage keys goes around the internet, and whenever they see a very interesting website, they just post it on Yahoo. And it worked because there was very limited number of content and websites on the internet in total at that time. And after that one, when websites started to get more dynamic, you're going to get a lot of new updates on different websites. You can't have everything on things like Yahoo because it's handmade, it's editor-based. So there came RSS. So you can subscribe to different channels, and it doesn't really matter if it's good in their public sense or not. You cared about the organization or the person behind it. So every time there is an update, you're going to be able to see it, right? And after RSS, there are much more information on the web, so there came search engines. You don't care where the information is from, but you care about how relative they are to whatever you're looking for, right? Your topic or keywords. And if you look at how curations, how feed and search works, they basically shape how we get information until today, okay? So let's take another look at Web 1, or like the early stage of the internet. Now we call it Web 1. They have pretty obvious Yeah, they have pretty obvious characteristics, which is everyone can broadcast, you need to host your own content, and distributors hold the power. This is a very beautiful architecture, actually. It's very ideal, but there was only one problem. Everyone can broadcast is talking about the possibility, but not the probability. It's just improbable that everyone will be able to host their own computer, make it a server, and serve and maintain their own stuff online. And that's why those brilliant people started to work on stuff like service, right? The service providers started to came along, and they were talking about, okay, all of these complications are really too much for regular users, but they really want to be part of the information flow on the internet. So what are we going to do, right? We're going to figure out a way for them to use the internet to become part of the information ecosystem without a high barrier, right? So if you don't know anything about computers, you can still use it. So there came Twitter, right? So you don't need anything like computer related to use Twitter other than the computer itself. As long as you have an email address, you can sign up in Twitter and start posting. There's going to be your own space online, and there's going to be your own audience online, right? And after Twitter, there was Instagram, of course. Well, this doesn't seem to work somehow. Okay, there was Instagram, right? And then, of course, more recently, I got more training, there was TikTok. And all of these service providers, if we look at them again, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, they have their own traits. And now that we look back retrospectively, we call them Web 2, right? So first of all, they have extremely low entry barrier. As I said before, you don't need to be a computer expert. You don't have to know anything about how computer works to become a composer, a creator, and a producer online. Secondly, as opposed to Web 1, whereas all of these information distributors are differentiated by how they distribute information, now if you look at Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok, they are going to be a combination of curation, feed, and search, okay? You look at Twitter, they have their own curations. It has its own feed and its own search. And the same thing works for Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, whatever comes along. And they're differentiated mostly by media types, and of course, come with the media type was the community behind it, right? And of course, lastly, they're controlling not only the distribution, but also production, storage, and interpretation, right? In Web 1, the service provider like Google and Yahoo was only controlling distribution, but now in Web 2, they're controlling more. They control what kind of information can be produced, they control where and how they are stored, they control how they are distributed, who hears about what information, and they control what information is consumed in what way exactly, right? So this is the first time in human history that a single party is going to have such level of control power regarding the flow of information. Before that, not even government could do something like this. So what happened afterwards is that they now abuse their power to a much larger, to a much deeper and greater extent than ever before, okay? So they've been abusing it. And this is why a new generation of entrepreneurs, builders, artists, and hackers have been working on the new internet. Right now, we call them Web 3. So before exactly looking at what we've been building for the information flow, let's take a look at Bitcoin. Because the web and the open web was long existing before the introduction of Bitcoin. But Bitcoin was the one that got these ideas more mainstream, right? Bitcoin was not designed for the information flow. It was designed as a money. It's a decentralized money that was against a government-controlled money, right? It was open, permissionless, and immutable, right? This is what about Bitcoin. And inspired by Bitcoin, after the decentralized money, there came the decentralized computation, right? Ethereum was designated to become the world computer, whereas as a computing source, it's also open and permissionless. So what's the goal for information flow here, right? We want to make sure that information follows the path. In one word, we want an information flow that is open, free, and permissionless, just as the decentralized money or the decentralized computation, right? Now, how do we build something like this? Just like you can't fix the global financial system with just one DeFi protocol, you can't fix the global computation environment with just one protocol. You won't be able to fix the information flow in just one protocol. So, just as if you look at information, it's more close to a commodity, it's more close to a consumer product than computation or money. Because for every piece of information, you're going to produce it, store it somehow, distribute it, and consume it. So what are some of the protocols that are working toward this open new internet for an open information flow, right? That's one by one. First is production, right? On the left to right, there are 4 different protocols that leverages blockchain technology in different ways. Crossbell is the blockchain itself. It's designed for creating information. Lens is part of a blockchain. It's not a blockchain itself, but it's part of a blockchain, and it's a DApp, just like Avi, right? Sydney was just talking about Lens before. Farcaster, on the other hand, is not exactly completely a DApp. It uses blockchain as part of the feature, right? It uses it as name service. And the Nostr, which is based absolutely nothing on blockchain, but uses cryptography just as others do. And for storage, there are Arweave, right? People should be very familiar with the storage protocols. Arweave is a blockchain that deals with storage, and IPFS is not, right? But it's a decentralized groundwork that allows you to store things on it. And afterwards, distributors. We at RC3 works on distribution. We're the distribution protocol that works on search, feed, and AI. And also Sapana is another example that works exclusively on search for composability and configurations. And lastly, consumption. So we have Demos as an application for Nostr, Mass that makes Twitter into Web3, and Butterfly for Lens, as Daniel was talking about before. So if we could have more people to use these protocols, and then we can have a result, whereas we can be creating information with open protocols, we will be storing information on permissionless networks, we will distribute information through transparency, and lastly, we can interpret information with complete freedom. This is what we're going to get if we continue the path, right? So you can create something on Mirror, store it on Arweave, have the results searched out of RCS3, and then see it on a completely different application, right? This is a search engine application called Hootit. And you can also upload a video on LensTube, store it on Arweave once again. You can get the feed from RC3, and then you will be able to get it from Firefly, which is a completely different application, right? Firefly is an application that has social medias from Twitter and all of these Web3 ones. And so if you look at all these examples, none of these protocols have to get permission from one another. They can just build whatever they want as long as they are following all of these open procedures. And we will be get to a result whereas no matter how it's created, proper information will always be able to flow freely to any application or users in need. So this is the end result here, okay? And we will be continuously doing it with open code, open protocol, and open information. And this is basically about what's been happening with the information flow, right? And we have one last thing here. The evolution of information flow is a result of evolution of data landscape. We have Web 2 and Web 3. It's an evolution of media, whereas we have text, image, and videos. And also it's an evolution of interface. Right now, it's been really trending that LLM and generative AI has been really, really popular, right? People have been talking about GPTs all the time and talking about how this is going to be the next big thing in HCI and interface. 3 weeks ago, we at RC3, we announced something called the AIOP, right? We say, okay, we want to combine the power of Web3 with AI and see what's going to happen with it. So today, this should be the first time I'm going to show a live demo of how this would work, okay? So I really wanted to show you live with a computer, but I was told that I wouldn't be able to control the computer. So today I'll be showing you a video that I just made this morning, okay? And this should be the first time whereas anyone is going to see how in a very live demo, Web3 information getting queried by an LLM or a natural language processor. If you may, please play the video that I have on file. Thank you. Do I have the video? Okay, it's going to take some time. Okay, so as they're taking time, I'll just tell a little bit about the, what we think about Web3 and AI. So LLMs has been really hot, right? And what's the limitation about LLM? It's that it lacks the possibility to generate factual information, and both structurally or non-structurally. If you look at structured information, it's extremely hard for NLP or for LLMs to give you an example, for example, like how many tokens are there? Okay, we are ready. Okay, there you go. I'm going to show you how we combine the powers.
All right, so this is the first time I'm going to show the model trained by AIOP. The RC3 AIOP gives you an environment for you to train AI models based on the information and data from Web3. And now Model 1 is under closed alpha, so you need a special code to access it, but I can also join the waitlist for future possibilities. I really wanted to show you guys in a live situation, but I was just informed that the internet might not be so good, so I'm just gonna have this as a backup plan. So LLMs have been really great in terms of language-related stuff, but what about querying data and analysis, right? So I'm gonna first show how data querying works. I'm gonna do like what is Vitalik doing recently, and see if Model 1 can get the activities on chain. And I can see that Model 1 goes through different networks and open protocols and see, okay, Vitalik has been mostly active on Farcaster, as you can see on the screen. And also he has made a transaction on Gnosis Safe, right? But this is only just for one address across different networks. What if we want to do something a little bit more complicated? And so I'm gonna ask Model 1, what are the most popular tokens? And it's gonna go through different networks across a lot of different addresses. As it says, it went through 200,000 most active addresses and tells me the most popular tokens over the past 3 months across all networks. There is Wrapped Ethereum, USD dollars, Blur, and Ethereum on Arbitrum, and then Tether. So I can actually do something like this. What about Polygon only, right? If I only care about Polygon, and I want to do a little bit more filtering as a more sophisticated querying, and I can see that it's going to give me all the active tokens, or like the most popular tokens on Polygon. And on the right it says these are based on transaction histories. They have a training score as calculated for Model 1. Okay? And after querying and analysis, we can also take a look at how the content and information on Web3 help train the LLM itself, right? So I'm going to ask him something very specific to Web3. Let's say, okay, lots of people have been talking about RAI recently, which is the stablecoin, right? So what is RAI? Let's see if it understands what RAI is about. And let's see. Well, there we go. It's a decentralized stablecoin built on the Ethereum blockchain. It's designed to maintain its value without pegged to any external assets like the US dollar. Instead, it has something called the reflex bound to adjust the supply and demand response to market conditions, blah, blah, blah. So basically, it understands what RAI is about. Okay? It's stablecoin that's not stable in a fiat way. And what if you want to see if Model 1 understands it's more sophisticatedly? Let's just say, how is it different from LUSD, which is also a stablecoin, but it's pegged to the US dollar. They're all based on mostly Ethereum. And as it says, they are both decentralized stablecoins, right? But different approach to maintain stability. RAI has its own reflex bound mechanism, whereas LUSD uses the over collateralizations. And at the same time, we can do something actually even more surprising, right? Because now that the model has access to a huge amount of AI data, Web3 data, let's just say, do you have a prediction of the price of Bitcoin, let's just say at the end of this year? Okay, as it says, based on the historical data, a reasonable prediction for Bitcoin is about like $24,000 to $36,000. And of course, this is not a financial advice, but it does give you a kind of like a rough understanding according to the trend before. And lastly, let's just say I'm presenting you at the first time to show how Web3 plus AI can help the flow of information. Do you have anything to say to the audience? And let's have Model 1 to make a conclusion for today's speak. So, thank you for the opportunity to speak to this audience, of course. As an AI-powered Web3 assistant, I'm a prime example of how a combination of Web3 and AI can help improve the flow of information. By leveraging blockchain technology and decentralized networks, Web3 allows for greater privacy, security, and user control over data. When combined with AI technology like NLP and machine learning, we can create intelligent assistants that can help users better navigate this new digital landscape. Together, Web3 and AI have the potential to revolutionize how we access and interact with the information online. They can help us break free from centralized platforms controlled by large tech companies and give us more control over data. I'm excited to be part of this movement toward a more decentralized internet powered by cutting-edge technologies like blockchain and AI. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your event.
Thank you, Joshua, for the very passionate and meets the eye demonstration. So our next guest was an investigative journalist and editor-in-chief that did many pieces on China's crypto business before founding CDAO. With a network covering more than 20 countries, CDAO is the most influential DAO in the Chinese-speaking community. And interestingly, she was admitted to Peking University, top of the class, but dropped out. So at first, I thought she was following the footsteps of Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg to be an entrepreneur. But then, someone told me the other day that after founding CDAO, she studied at a different university, a University of Southern California. So I'm really, I don't know if she just didn't like the university that she was in. So yeah, please welcome the founder of CDAO, Han Tang, to tell us why she thinks DAO is not a utopia. Please.
Thank you. Yeah, so I have very interesting experience at job from Peking University. I'm studying USC now. I really like my studying experience because it's in a diversified culture, and it makes me think more about how human can be organized and how human can be connected with each other and to show their creativity. So today I'm going to give a speech about DAO is not a utopia. So, okay. Before I start my speech, let's give a quick show about what is a DAO. Everybody is talking about DAO today. Let's talk about. So according to Ethereum.org, DAO needs three features. It's a member-owned communities without centralized leadership, and it's a safe way to collaborate with internet strangers, and also a safe place to commit funds to a specific cause. So usually we will have a community treasury, and we will run based on blockchain, and it's kind of international borderless. So every DAO may have a shared mission and a vision, and it also has a decision-making mechanism. So this is a DAO. So if you ask me whether if I have a WeChat group or a Telegram group, is it a DAO? No, it's not a DAO. And if you ask me, oh, I'm going to launch an interest group talking about movie, is that DAO? No, it's not a DAO. Okay, so after that, we can go through the history about how DAO is evolving. So in 2013, about 10 years ago, Vitalik proposed DAO, this concept in the Ethereum white paper. And after that, a lot of people do their practices in DAO. For example, in 2014, MakerDAO starts, and then the DAO, which is the most famous DAO in Ethereum. But after that, the Moloch DAO and Betacado and Aragon, and also DAO House, which can be the in the last bull market, this is the famous DAO. And now what we are familiar with is bankless DAO, FWB, and also Constitution DAO, also CDAO and City DAO. Okay. So today we are going to this kind of society. In 2022, biology proposed a network state, which make it more a bigger vision about DAOs. And also in 2022, Vitalik proposed the decentralized society, which means this society is a topic we are going to talk about today. So these are our history about DAOs. Okay, so DAO is a trend. You can see so many DAOs today, but DAO is like a dream, Imagine you have a dream. You want to marry a girl, and this girl you think is very, very beautiful and very, very lovely and cute. I want to marry her, and after that, I will live a peaceful life. However, when you get married with the girl becomes your wife, and it becomes, oh, why are you so ugly? Okay, why are you have a so bad temper? You laugh at me every day, and I feel so tired. It's like your husband. Before you marry that man seems to be very rich and can provide you with a very stable life. And after you marry with that guy, then, oh, I'm poor. I'm very, very tired today. It's just a utopia. It's inefficient. We have a lot of girls inside a DAO, and they lack leadership. It means that when there is something wrong in a DAO, nobody can be responsible for that. And these also lack cash flow. Why people are saying that DAO is a utopia? Because we don't have the positive cash flow. We are just talking about the dream and the future. And also, because of the cash flow is lack and there's no responsibility, no one is responsible for something, so the team is very unstable. People come in and come out, come in and come out. So that's why today, a lot of people are questioning about DAO. It's like a dream, a utopia. What we are chasing for, but what we cannot likely become true. However, today I'm going to talk about why it's not that anymore. So what changed in the 10 years after Vitalik proposed the DAO? The first thing is that after so many people practiced in the DAO area, the governance model become more mature than before. So at first, it's like a dream called Islam. It's a very strict rule. But nowadays, we're going to talk about let's be focused on human. We don't touch each other. We are human. So I have my heart, you have your heart. We have our temper, we have our feelings. Let's make some rules and make it adjustable according to human. And also, let DAO become a network which can connect people better than before. And then it's become more practical. In the beginning, we only focused on decentralization. I mean, decentralization is very, very good, but it's not everything. When you are human, you are just not living in decentralization where you are living in groups. So when there is something happens, we need to focus on who is going to be responsible for that, who is going to be taking the responsibility and leadership. So nowadays, a lot of DAOs are not just talking about decentralization, but also to talk about the so practical things. And now DAO is more developable, and there is a fight. We have so many DAO governance models today. When you have different goals, you can choose different governance models, not just always everybody vote everything. It's not that. So the first thing is that the governance model is becoming more mature. So remember, when you start a DAO in 2023, don't use that way in 2013, okay? It's not 10 years ago. And the second thing is that we have a lot of DAO tools to support us. 10 years ago, there's no so many DAO tools, but now we can just diversify our DAO governance model according to so many DAO tools like content, knowledge management, treasury management, and also the DAO operation system. Even for the DAO operation system, you can have so many systems today. And the third thing is that DAOs are more focused on business model today. Okay, we are not just talking about social experiment. It's not just social experiment. It's about how to make money, not start a company, but start a DAO. So you can see for FWB, they can provide you with brand services to you to help a Web2 brand become a Web3 brand, and they can charge you. And also, for their policy, they can serve the freelancers and charge them. So when a lot of DAOs are starting today, the first thing the founder needs to consider is that, what's my business model? How to make this DAO run sustainability? So this is a very important thing. And also, besides that, nowadays there are so many scholars are focusing on making the new legislation framework. So in about 2 years ago, in 2021, Wyoming became the first state recognizing DAOs as LLCs, which means before that, if you want to sign a contract with a DAO, you cannot know who is going to sign with you as a legal identity. Now we have that. And in 2022, the Republic of Marshall Islands can provide you with more specific rules to treat the DAO legal problems. And today, just in the last month, DAO became an independent legal identity recognized by Utah law. It's not a company. DAO is an independent law identity today. So it's a very, very, rapid change. And nowadays, we're going to see there are so many people just launched DAO identities and sign contract and carry on business with others, not just companies. And there are two reasons that why DAO will become very popular in the future. So after we solve the 4 problems, you will find that if you're a founder, you are going to launch a business today, DAO is more attractive than companies. Why? Because it's easy to start. The cost is low, right? The cost is very low. You can find some people, and you can have a treasury. You have some money, and you decide how to use that. And DAO is born to be borderless, to be international. You can launch your company in Hong Kong, or say you just launch your company in USA. But if it's a DAO, it's born to be international. You can invite so many people from different countries and cultures to cooperate with each other, and you don't need to wonder that there's something wrong with you. And because DAO is flatter, it's not an organization with so many hierarchies, it's flatter. So it's easy to expand, it's easy to cooperate with each other. So you can also let your DAO members to be more creative than when they're in companies. In the company, you are the boss and they are the employees, so they feel like to be stressed by you. But now, they're your DAO members, you are cooperating with each other, so everybody can show their creativities. Last, if you are building a DAO, not a company, you will find your customers and your contributors inside your DAO. This is amazing. This is amazing. If you are the boss and they are employers, they will say, I'll listen to my boss. But now, they are your cooperators, consumers and contributors will make your business model run easier than before. And at last, after COVID-19, Gen Z loves DAO. We love DAO. Why we love that? Because first, we want to co-work remotely. We don't want to go to the office and say, hi, hello, boss, what am I going to do today? No, not going to do that. We don't want to go to the office to work in the post-academic area. And the second, we want to feel more controlled about our work and the business. We want to feel that we control ourselves, not be controlled by our boss. And then we can co-work with friends in the community based on common interests and find positive support, which is good for our spirit. Okay, so last, we're living in an era of great unemployment, that's true. But in DAOs, you can easily to find some working opportunities and switching your jobs because it's very easy to go to a DAO and then go to another DAO, and you can make choices between that. So that's why DAO is not a utopia, and it will become a trend. And this trend will be very popular in this world. So I'm going to make some predictions. What will happen in the next 5 years? Before I make the predictions, I want to have the common knowledge that humans are social animals. We are living in groups. We are not just individuals. We are living in groups. Even we are immigrants from Web 2 to Web 3. In Web 3, we're still living in groups, which means Everybody need to find their own groups and organizations in Web3. But what's that? Believe me, it's not communism, it's DAOs. So, in the next 5 years, as individuals, everyone in Web3 need to find a DAO he or she belongs to. You need to do that. You can start a DAO or join a DAO, but you really need to do that. And the second one is that more than 50% organizations in Web3 will be operated as DAOs, not companies. And the third thing is that DAO will become the basis of mass adoption for most Web3 applications. In this Spring Festival in Hong Kong, we met with so many Web3 applications. They can do a lot of things, but where is the users? Who can use my applications? Where are they? The answer is that they're in the DAOs. Why? Because the DAO is the common base, it's the background, it's the background. The DAOs build the real association between people. When you are going to promote your Web3 applications, you are going to consider what's the social relation? How it's going to happen? It's not going to happen in an individual, but in a groups. So find that in DAOs. And then I really believe DAO will involve more users, will bring more money into Web3, and they can bring a new round of bull market. When we are talking about bull market, when we really want to see the Ethereum price and Bitcoin price to go up, what's the people? Where's the money? The DeFi, the NFT are the old stories. It's old stories, but DAO is the new stories. When you join a DAO, you don't need to even pay something. It just to lower the shareholder of people going to Web3. So this is my prediction. Okay, so in the next 5 years, I really believe that every style of organizations will be DAOized. What means to be DAOized? You can see the companies can be DAOized as a profit DAO, and you can see the non-profit DAO, and you can see the parties, the religions, the network states, and digital cooperatives. Every kind of organization will be DAOized in next 5 years. So maybe in the next 5 years, we don't need to talk about DAO because DAO is everywhere. And we are talking about the specific style of this organization on blockchain. So last I want to introduce you about CDAO. So CDAO is the most influential Chinese-speaking DAO in this world. We have our members all around the world, not just in the mainland China, but also throughout Asia and Europe, and also the North America. So we could just connect Web3 Chinese builders around the world. Our mission is to connect them and build connections, and let them flow, and make them exchange with each other and find more freedom. So we really encourage you to build DAO or join a DAO in the future. We are going to help more DAOs to just grow up and also help more DAO tools grow up in the next 5 years. So if you want to do that or if you are interested about that, just connect me. Okay, thank you. This is my my share. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. It was very exciting. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to have our last panel of this afternoon. We'll talk about regulations of Web3 social. Our panel will be moderated by Derek Lam, Mask Network's CFO. Derek is a Hong Kong native. He previously worked in the investment banking branch of Goldman Sachs and PNB Paribas, and 2 family offices in Hong Kong. And Derek will be joined by 4 panelists. The first panelist is Jorinda Xu. She's a DWF Labs research lead. DWF Lab is a leading multi-stage Web3 investment firm that invests in average 5 projects monthly, regardless of market condition. And prior to DWF Labs, Jorinda was a BD at Gemini and a financial writer and Dollars and Cents. A second panelist, Zhu Yi. She is a client strategy lead at Galaxy. I think a lot of us know Galaxy. As the largest platform in the Web3 credential data network, Galaxy has more than 60 million Galaxy IDs. And its reward-based loyalty program has prepared the growth of Optimism, Polygon, Arbitrum, and 2,100 more other partners. Our third panelist, Wilson Wei, he is the co-founder and CEO of CyberConnect. CyberConnect is a decentralized social protocol. It enables users to create profiles on EVM-based, EVM-compatible blockchains as the anchor of users' decentralized identities. Our last panelist, Luke. Luke is the co-founder and CEO of S3 Labs and Web3MQ. Web3MQ is the fastest and most scalable Web3 messaging protocol and infrastructure network today, and S3 Labs is a socio-technology design company seeding its development. Luke did his graduate school research at the MIT Media Lab under one of Twitter's chief scientists. Please welcome our moderator and the panelists.
Hello. Hello. Yeah, I guess we're going to begin. Today's panel is about regulation of Web3 social, and we have a bunch of Web3 social companies from and DWF Lab as well. Interesting Chinese projects, and also Mass Network ourselves. To talk about this topic. And I guess to begin, we can have a self-introduction session first. I'll start by introducing myself, and then I'll let each of you maybe take 1 minute or two to introduce yourself and your company. So Mass Network is one of the top 3, I guess, Chinese projects, listed tokens by market cap, alongside NEO and CFX, and we focus on Web3 social. Essentially, we have a product that is going to link Twitter and Facebook with the world of Web3. By installing our middleware, you will be able to do everything Web3, including buying tokens, including buying NFTs, including sending encrypted message, etc. And that's the first part of our business. And then on the second part, because we are already a listed token and we would like to build the Web3 ecosystem in more details, we also actually have a venture fund that focuses on social, NFT, and gaming. And actually, some of the companies here today are also invested by us. And as for myself, I guess, the previous host has also introduced a little bit of my own background. I am a honky here, and born and raised here. I did my uni in the UK. I graduated from Oxford and spent a few years in investment banking across BNP Paribas and Goldman Sachs. And before joining here as the CFO of Mass Network, I was an investor in a family office focusing on Web2 and Web3 investments. Okay, and then I guess I'll leave it to Jorinda to introduce herself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jorinda from DWF Ventures. So DWF Ventures is basically a team under DWF Labs, which is the multi-stage investment affiliate arm of DWF. So DWF stands for Digital Wave Finance, which is a high-frequency trading firm based out of Switzerland. We've been around the space since 2018, integrated with most of the centralized exchanges and also on selected DeFi platforms. And really, the DWF Ventures team looks towards pre-seed and seed projects, and we try to value add to them in terms of what we can provide in terms of Web3 marketing agency, and also in terms of like blockchain security audits, and we work together with our HFT expertise to really help projects to go to market and succeed. So yeah.
Hi, this is Shui. So I'm from Galaxy, the Open Credential Data Network. So basically, I think Galaxy is not only like it is not a social media platform, but we are more of like a community hub for users to learn more about like Web3 projects and to learn the most insights topics in all of the Web3 world. I'm the client strategy team lead at Galaxy. Basically, I'm more of like consult with a lot of Web3 projects about their campaigns and marketing growth plan. Yeah, I think that's pretty much of my introduction.
Hey everybody. So this is Wilson, the co-founder of CyberConnect, and CyberConnect it's pretty much the first ever social graph decentralized protocol. We started back in like 2 years ago. We are a serial entrepreneurial team. We started our first Web3 startup 5 years ago in Silicon Valley, and eventually that was acquired. We were trying to build a decentralized social media blockchain. And afterwards, I found that the fundamental problem that we need to solve is actually decentralized social graph and identity. And so far, we have closed 2 rounds of funding in total amount of 25 million. And we have already accumulated more than 800 million CC profile holders, generating more than like 500,000 in revenue. Daily active users more than 100,000. We have about like 50 pretty good application that's living on top of our ecosystem, including Favor, Degen Reborn, Claps, Read On, and so on and so on. Glad to be here. Love to listen more from all the other panelists, and yeah, thanks.
Hey guys, honored to be here. Currently running a company called S3 Labs. We're incubating and seeding the development of a open and trustless messaging protocol called Web3 MQ. What we solve in terms of the social and decentralized social stack is that we really try to give people the ability to reach or communicate and exchange ideas or information or content with people, but in a trustless and permissionless manner. We make this possible in a mechanism quite like Ethereum, where anybody can join as a relayer node, so that you're not going to be censored by any single node. You're not going to be censored by any single company, and yeah, in that sense, it's trustless, and we help seed the development and initial maintenance of this network. And currently, we're out. Actually, I think the first that's fully decentralized. And we're also the fastest transport layer in Web3 available today. Yep.
Okay, great. Great intro from everyone. Let's get straight to the questions. A lot of us know that Web3 social media can be, first of all, of course, it can be traced back to the development of blockchain and decentralized technology. And it does seem like the Web3 social media platform has emerged over the past few years gradually, and we would like to know, your thoughts on the past few years, basically the historical development progress of Web3 social media. That would be the first question. Yeah, and your understanding of it.
Yeah, so back to the history about how the whole Web3 social media started. I think just to take even the step all the way back to how the internet was incepted, we really it was created to create an open and free platform for people to communicate and connect, and from there really messaging and encryption started off from there to create this environment for people to connect without having their privacy infringed. And the reason why in the recent years we see like the burgeoning of like Web3 socials is mainly because while at the start we have the ideal goal of like an open and free communication and connectivity target, the hardware limitations in terms of enabling that kind of like decentralized and open network is really limited by the services that we have. And with like the development of like smart contract blockchains like Ethereum, and of course like the IPFS system with like more decentralized file storage where we can store our cute like dog pictures and like our selfies and wifis. It really helped to come together and break through the hardware limitations and enable like a more decentralized way by removing like all the trusted third parties that help to store all this data information and also to provide the consensus for all this message to transfer over. And additionally, with the fact that the Web2 social media scene is also getting increasingly ossified by the internal processes and also with the external pressures from relevant stakeholders, the Web3 social space really starts to rise to prominence with people wanting to get back their privacy with all this breach that we have from like the Web2 centralized parties. I'm not sure if you guys have tried to use like the website of like, have you been pawned? You will see that like most of your emails are being like compromised already because of all these attacks on the centralized parties. And like, and also with the Web3 side, there's more innovation in terms of like maintaining and introducing the new standards of what privacy and decentralization meant for users. And I think one example is like how to really attract users and provide that next level of privacy and standard is really like how I think Mars Network is integrated with like the current Web2 platforms like Facebook and really allowing users to get like the next level of like encryption protection in terms of their messaging while still being able to connect with their existing network is something that really helps to drive the growth of like the Web3 social media scene. Yeah.
Okay. Well, to echo on that, I do think that the how do we bring the next level of privacy, next level of mass adoption, especially? I think Wilson and I were in another panel the other day. We keep focusing on the buzzword mass adoption. Like if we want the next bull market to come, if we want Web3 social to do well, looking at the historical development, there were a lot of progress, right? But we need more progress looking forward, and that is we need to drive better mass adoption, and this can come from better privacy feature, better UI feature, etc. But it needs to come from a more massive adoption. So that's actually consistent with, I guess, a lot of our views as well. And at least that's the house view from Mars Network. So on the second question, compared to traditional social media, well, Web3 social media obviously has some advantages and also have some disadvantages. Maybe on the advantage side, we just talk about the decentralization, the privacy protection, the incentive mechanism, for example, but also user friendliness could be a challenge, right? So I guess will be interesting to hear from you on the pros and cons of Web3 social media versus Web2, and how do you see that evolve going forward?
So I think actually for Web2 users, the barrier to entry, the Web3 social media is really crucial. To solve this problem, I think Galaxy's mission is to give the data back to users, so they have the ownership of their own data. And I think it's a very important solution for those users. Web3 products, social media platforms has always have I would say not have a very user-friendly UI. But I think Web3 social platform is constantly thinking how to solve this problem.
Okay. So we talked about the past 5 years of development. We talked about the current pros and cons, and then I guess for Wilson, I guess the audience would obviously be interested to learn about what your view is for the future 5 years of social media or social in general under Web3. Would be interesting to hear your thoughts.
I mean, it's really hard to predict anything like in a 5-year scale. But if we look at the fundamentals, like what Web3 actually changed the landscape, I'll always almost, go back to two things. Like one, it's, in the life of virtual socialing in Web3, there are going to be personalized and personal owned assets. And that changed the whole game, right? So on in our experience in Web2 world, no matter how social you are, there's no way for you to actually own something and show it off. Just like how you actually pick your dress, pick a jacket, pick a T-shirt to come to this event, to show part of your taste and part of the things that you actually own. So being able to own assets, I think that's going to change how users actually interact with each other in a Web3 social network. And secondly, I think the data ownership will be given back to users, and that's going to change the game as well. Because for example, users will be able to, for example, creators will be able to operate through multiple accounts and channels with the same group of fan base, for example. Like the problem right now we have with multiple different channels like YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. If you spend 5 years working on your YouTube channel, you accumulated 500,000 followers or whatsoever, it's almost impossible for you to bring your audience to any other channels that you would love to go to try on. That means the fundamental problem is you don't actually own those data, and therefore you don't have the direct connections or monetization channel with your audiences. And the problem with that is, after the platform that you're on become the dominant player, and they're gonna be, bulleting you, for example, establishing some kind of unfair demonetization policy or unfair content distribution algorithm. But in the scenario of Web3, everything should be user-centric. All the users should be able to entitle of their own data, and including social graph and content that they publish. And most importantly, the monetization channel should be established directly peer-to-peer between the user and the creator itself, themselves. And so I think that's going to change the dynamic of how platforms operate and how they treat users and creators. So, I mean, in 5 years, I think those are the two major fundamental elements that's going to change the game and shape the future of how Web3 application or social application are going to look like.
Sure. Well, I always like sharing the panel with Wilson, always very insightful. Definitely great insight, and a lot of that I do agree on. And I do hope the future of Web3 social can continue to be more decentralized, more privacy focused, and more easy to use for users. And I think that is important, right? As I keep saying, right, mass adoption is going to be the key attraction point and the key driver for the next bull market. And the next bull market will only come from mass adoption, and mass adoption will only come from user friendliness. And at the same time, you do not compromise, privacy. You do not compromise security. Okay, and that brings us to the next interesting question. So recently, as we know, based on the development of Nostra, there's a viral app, or at least a viral app for 2 weeks. That's called Damus, D-A-M-U-S, and it went from being super popular, everyone was trying to do that, everyone was trying to get an account, to becoming basically a place for junk advertising and harmful information. That was obviously sad to see, right? How can the Web3 social world balance the freedom of creation with self-censorship, and how to prevent these kind of software from spiraling into basically a vicious cycle?
Yeah, I think this is a really good question. I mean, it's obviously like a huge question too. I mean, Nostra had a great run for a while, and it's always a problem with like these alternative social networks that you have these kind of people that can't be on the mainstream social networks flocking towards it, right? So that's one problem. But I think that part of the problem is more due to, well, these people can't be on mainstream social networks like, say, Facebook, right? And so they'll be the first ones flocking to it. Because for them, it's the difference between, do I have a social network or do I not have a social network? And in that sense, well, that becomes a big pain point. So it becomes easier for these verticals to adopt new social networks. But at the same time, I think, you know, and by the way, so we are also a federated network, just like Nostra. There is this kind of more of a philosophical question around, you know, what is freedom of speech? Like, you know, Musk said the other day that, okay, Twitter's new policy is to have freedom of speech, but not to have freedom of reach, which essentially isn't very useful, right? You can say it, but you're not going to have exposure, and nobody's going to hear it. Essentially, you have this kind of cage over your head where everything you says just echoes back to you, and nobody hears it, and that's not meaningful. And societally, right, is that a right thing to do? So for us, kind of what we're doing is to build more of a fundamental building block so that people can build reach-based applications, you know, and have trustless reach, but in a programmable manner. So we believe that essentially the basis for choosing, it's probably a better approach to have this in the hands of the people or the users or the communities and have them drive it. So before Web3, actually, I used to do AI. And we tried very hard to build very, very smart filters to filter out, you know, hate speech, fake news, blah, blah, blah. It's so hard. But when you have the mid-tail and the long-tail participating and doing these kinds of things, it actually becomes a lot easier. So one of the breakthrough ideas with Nostra was to have something called a relay market, right? To have each relay decide certain kinds of things. So I think these new decision models that are essentially like more human and kind of algorithm collaborated, and it's also more crypto native, right? You have a market and you have more participation from the bottom up because, you know, you have your data, you have your social graph. And so I think that's kind of a future model where, you know, more people, more of the mid-tail and long-tail community participates in moderating and kind of driving the network and, you know, deciding how information is spread. I think that's kind of the future solution to solving these kinds of problems, yeah.
Okay. Great. Well, let's focus on the next question. Well, under social media, obviously, there are a few key areas that a lot of people focus on, and privacy is an important element. And well, alongside data security, would be interesting to know, because you've done a lot of research and also invested into a lot of, obviously, SocialFi, social media companies. How do you see the improvement, or what is your view on what Web3 social companies have done on the data security and privacy side versus traditional companies? And you know, what is your view on, again, privacy, security? What would be the future development for that, ideally?
I think one thing about the Web3 side compared to like the Web2 side is really providing like privacy and decentralization, not as like an added feature or like a premium feature, but more of making it the basic function, the standard for users of social media platforms. And tying it back to being able to provide an open and free internet for people to communicate and connect. Basically, having privacy is essential for us to really fully express ourselves. And I think one thing we all know about like the Web3 space is about how it really enables like the fragmentation of identity. It allows me to be Jordan Su from Research Labs on the panel, but on Twitter I'm Pocketpilas Cat, which is a different handle for whatever research stuff that I write about with regards to the Web3 space. and that really with that, it gives like people more freedom of expression. And if you were to look at the way people tend to move from different social media platforms, it happens when people are enabled to unlock the next level of creativity or like freedom to express themselves. So say going back to when internet was available and people can start posting pictures online, and from there people start to take more pictures and post online, and then it kind of encouraged people to pick up photography and everything. Then it slowly moved to like sharing videos about what you're eating, what you're doing, and then it slowly became sharing videos about how you dance on TikTok and everything. And then I guess the next frontier is then being able to really fully express yourself in your different verticals of identity on like the Web3 space, which is like I am like a believer of like DAO movements, and then I have like a profile for that, or I believe in like in another narrative in which I really like this NFT series, and therefore I'm a follower of this NFT series. And I guess that is how the Web3 space can be attractive. And with that, it also, that privacy layer allows people to then freely express themselves, because sometimes it can be also weird or funny when you are like a corporate high flyer, but actually you really like Spy Family anime, and you don't really want everyone to know that. So that's, I guess, and that's how like Web3 space can differentiate themselves from like the Web2 space, especially with that added layer of privacy and decentralization. Yeah.
Okay. Well, on the regulation side, obviously we're seeing the US is imposing more regulation on the Web3 industry lately. And also a few, I guess, crypto-friendly banks have collapsed, right? I guess that, well, at least for now, that basically affected, other subsidiaries under Web3 more than social. Maybe on the DeFi side, they're more affected. But on, I guess, on US and maybe Europe, on the Western world, we do see they are having a relatively different view towards crypto versus Hong Kong, which is fully embracing it right now. Well, would be interesting to learn about your view on the evolvement of regulation in social under Web3. We know there are already a lot of regulations on social Web2, and would be interesting to hear your view on regulation under Web3 social. Yeah.
Actually, I think the regulation on social media platform is more of like protect the users in Web3, because like the freedom of speech that provide, and also Web3 users, they do have like, they can create an anonymous profile on Web3 world. So it kind of like provide them a platform to spread about those bad intentions, like informations, without regulation. So I would say like the regulation on the social media is kind of like hoping to protect other users to some extent.
Okay. Well, speaking of regulation in Hong Kong in particular, obviously we know Hong Kong is being more and more Web3 friendly, and a lot of us are here today because we believe that Hong Kong will be a major Web3 hub in the future. Would be great to hear from Wilson your view on the ideal, I guess, Hong Kong, I guess, regulatory environment or support. What kind of support would you like to see from Hong Kong going forward, especially for companies that are doing Web3 social?
Okay, that's a huge question. I'm not sure whether I'm in a position to, say that, but I'll just take this to just speak out of my mind, like what we want as entrepreneurs within the space. Like one, it's clear regulations about how to launch a token, for example, right? You can't just say, you're not allowed to raise money this way, but like, it's just not clear. It's so vague. And I feel like they need a very clear, not only an attitude, but like a clear path of like, this is how you should do it. And then we should, like that, and then we just follow it. And obviously a token, it's such a, such an important thing in any of the projects, including layer 1 blockchain to all the applications, or most of the list. So I'll say that that's like the #1 priority thing to sort it out. If Hong Kong becomes the first place to let the world know like how to legally issue any digital assets, including fungible or non-fungible token, and give entrepreneurs a way to establish an entity and do that legally, I mean, that's a huge plus. The second thing, maybe they already know, and they have been doing it, exchanges, like do exchanges legally. We need transparency. We don't want black box trading. We don't want insider trading, obviously. We want ways to protect the retail investors. My apology if those are too much, but that's my thought.
Well, I think it's actually, well, very sensible, by the way. I do think this is all sensible asks or sensible wishes, and I believe the Hong Kong government is already, working towards that way, especially more on the second part, which is regulating exchanges in a more clear way, right? Giving out licenses, version 2.0.
To some degree, I think like step 1 might be even more important than step 2. Exchanges, there are already a whole bunch of exchanges out there, right? It's really hard to, let's say, even you are the legal entity and you're the legalized exchange here in Hong Kong, it doesn't mean that you're going to have liquidity. But if you become the first ever place to issue a token in a legitimate manner, I mean, that's going to change the game. That's my opinion.
Interesting. Okay. I agree. The point 1 is obviously very important, but I'm sure the Hong Kong government will work towards that. But it's obvious that on point 2, they're already pretty much on the finishing line. Anyways, on the next question, I guess in the world of Web3, it's not just about social, right? And there are a lot of other subsidiaries such as DeFi, such as NFT, such as gaming. Would be interesting to hear your view on how these other subsectors can integrate with Web3 social in a more, I guess, cohesive way going forward.
Yeah, so obviously, right, with Web3 social, you don't want the same thing as Web2 social, right, which is just simply sharing content. Like Web2 has already revolutionized how content is being made with UGC and PUGC and whatnot. It's very likely that, Web3 social is going to be very heavily centered around credentials and then, social assets and whatnot. And then I love what Wilson said about, good regulatory frameworks, because it's always kind of, there's very firm laws around free speech in the United States, but there's also very little laws about, mid to long tail trading. That's not securities. Right? And that's like a very heavy gray area. And sure, it's kind of possible that if, kind of these creator tokens and whatnot, if we're not careful, it's easy for them to become kind of the shit coins of, 2017, or kind of like a 1920-ish situation where it's an easy way to raise money and, pump and dump and whatnot. So that's a risk, but I also feel that so there's this theory of social that everything about social is about status. This is one of those theories about social networks, and in that sense, right? And in reality too, it's actually where we have some level of liquidity to our social tokens. It's your reputation, right? It's like kind of who you are. It's your personal brand and whatnot, and you can trade certain favors for that. So it's actually tokenized, right? Only we haven't done that. And so, if we actually give a token to social reputation or status, and then have a certain amount of liquidity towards it, I think that can change a lot of how society works, how collaboration can work, not just fundraising, but how to build collaborations between organizations, and also how small medium businesses can work. I think it's going to be huge in the future. But near term, yeah, definitely there's regulatory questions, and then also I think at the application layer, I'm actually pretty bullish on credentials as a medium for building better social. But people just suck at building social experiences around credentials today. And for us, it's more like what we try to focus on is, okay, let's build the picks and shovels first, so that we can guarantee that Web3 social is composable. And so that when people are building these things, they're interoperable, and you can build on top of what other people are building, step by step. Because it's probably going to still take a long time, because we haven't figured out how to build good experiences around kind of tokenized status and whatnot yet. But yeah, I think it's going to get there, and it's going to be a very, very different experience. There's going to be bad parts, like when you tokenize everything, there's a new layer of kind of interest into it, but I think it will also supercharge human activity like never before. Yeah.
Okay. We are actually done with all our questions, and if you guys do not have any further things to add, I guess we'll call it a day. All right. Yep. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. This concludes our event today, and hope you had a good time, and hope to see you soon. So until then, take good care of yourself and each other. So long. See you.